Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was a Saiyan elite sent to Earth instead of Kakarot Naruto x Bulma, Dragon Ball Z. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Elite's Arrival. The pod crashed into Earth 16 years ago. Not with the gentle landing of a scout, but with the thunderous impact of Conqueror. Naruto stood at the edge of the crater, blonde spikes catching the morning sun as he surveyed what remained of his arrival site. His tail flicked behind him, wrapped loosely around his waist when not in use. The crater had grown smaller over the years, nature slowly reclaiming what the impact had stolen. Another year gone, he muttered, dropping the carcass of his breakfast, some forest beast that had made the mistake of crossing his path. Another year wasted on this backwater planet. He kicked a stone, watching it sail over the horizon. Control had never been his strong suit, not when frustration bubbled under his skin like this. 16 years. 16 years since the Saiyan Empire had sent him to Earth. A simple mission for an elite warrior: conquer the planet and prepare it for sail. Even as an infant, his power level had marked him for greatness among his kind. But something had gone wrong. The programming in his pod had malfunctioned. Instead of the clear instructions and regular contact with the Empire he should have received, there had been silence. Just fragmented memories of his people, his purpose, and occasional garbled transmissions that left him with more questions than answers. Naruto leapt into the air, his ki propelling him upward until the crater disappeared beneath him. The wilderness stretched in every direction: mountains, forests, rivers. He'd spent years exploring it all, growing stronger, hunting, fighting the planet's strongest beasts while avoiding its main civilization centers. Not out of fear. A Saiyan fears nothing. But without clear instructions, he'd followed his instincts: observe, prepare, and wait for the right moment to strike. His scouter, the only working tech from his pod, beeped suddenly, alerting him to a power signature moving in his direction. Nothing impressive, just a typical human, but moving fast. Mechanical transport, probably. Might as well see what this is about, he said to himself, shooting through the sky toward the signal. Bulma brief slammed her fist against the dashboard of her capsule car, cursing as the engine sputtered and died. Stupid piece of junk. I'm the daughter of the most brilliant scientist on the planet and I can't even build a car that works in the mountains. She kicked the door open and stepped out, brushing blue hair from her face as she surveyed her surroundings. The dragon radar in her hand beeped steadily, confirming she was close to her prize. At least I'm near the fourth ball, she muttered, popping the car back into its capsule. Just need to hike a little. 3 Dragon Balls collected, 4 to go. The legend promised any wish to the person who gathered all 7, and Bulma had plans. Big plans that required reality-bending wishes. She pulled her jacket tighter and started up the mountain path, checking the radar every few steps. The beeping grew faster as she approached a small clearing near the top. Almost there, she grinned, pushing through the underbrush. Come to Mama, you magical little. A sudden rush of wind cut her off as something dropped from the sky, landing with enough force to crack the ground. Bulma stumbled back, nearly falling as dust billowed around the impact point. When it cleared, a young man stood before her. Or at least, he looked like a man at first glance. Spiky blonde hair, intense blue eyes, strange whisker-like marks on his cheeks. But the armor he wore wasn't like anything she'd seen before: black and orange plates covering a skin-tight suit. And was that a tail? Holy crap, she breathed, reaching instinctively for her capsule case where she kept her gun. The stranger tilted his head, studying her with predatory focus. The device over his left eye blinked with symbols she didn't recognize. Power level 5, he said, his voice surprisingly casual. Hardly worth my time. Bulma's scientific curiosity momentarily overcame her fear. What is that thing on your face? Some kind of advanced tech? He seemed surprised by the question. Most humans ran screaming when he appeared. A scouter. It measures battle power. He tapped it once. Yours is pathetic. Well, excuse me for not being whatever the hell you are, she snapped back, her initial fear transforming into irritation. Some of us use our brains instead of punching things. The stranger's eyes narrowed, but something like amusement played at his lips. You've got a mouth on you for someone so weak. And you've got a tail, so I guess we're both special. Bulma took a cautious step to the side. The dragon radar showed the ball was just beyond this clearing. Look, I'm just passing through, so if you don't mind. This is my territory. Your territory? Bulma laughed. What are you, a wolf? Last I checked, nobody owns the mountains. His tail flicked in apparent annoyance. I claimed this region years ago. The local creatures know better than to challenge me. His eyes fixed on the device in her hand. What is that? Bulma clutched the radar tighter. None of your business, monkey boy. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. I am Naruto, elite warrior of the Saiyan race. You do well to show some respect, human. Saiyan. As in, not from Earth. The scientist in Bulma perked up instantly. You're an alien. Naruto crossed his arms. This planet is scheduled for conquest and sale. I'm simply preparing the process. Instead of the fear or panic he clearly expected, Bulma's eyes lit up with fascination. An actual extraterrestrial. Do you have any idea how many scientific papers I could write about you? The cellular structure alone must be fascinating if you can survive impact landings and, wait, did you say conquest? Naruto blinked, thrown off by her reaction. Humans were supposed to cower or attack, not look at him like he was some fascinating specimen. Yes, conquest. My people identify valuable worlds and prepare them for buyers across the galaxy. By killing everyone on them? He shrugged. That's generally how it works. Bulma took a step back, her excitement dimming. And that's why you're here. To kill everyone. Eventually. When the time is right. But you haven't yet. Why? The question seemed to catch him off guard. His tail twitched as he looked away. My mission parameters were unclear. Communication with the Empire has been sporadic. So you've just been hanging out in the woods for years, waiting for someone to tell you to start the apocalypse? Bulma couldn't help the incredulous tone. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Naruto's face darkened. Watch yourself, human. Or what? You'll start your genocide early. She put her hands on her hips. If you were going to kill me, you would have done it already. He took a menacing step forward, and Bulma immediately regretted her boldness. The ground cracked beneath his boot. You know nothing about me or my mission. The dragon radar beeped loudly, saving Bulma from having to respond. Naruto's attention immediately shifted to the device. What is that sound? Some kind of weapon. It's a radar, she explained, deciding honesty might keep her alive longer. I'm tracking magical artifacts called Dragon Balls. There's one near here. Dragon Balls? His scouter beeped as if on cue, and he looked past her toward a rocky outcropping. You mean the orange sphere with stars inside? Bulma's eyes widened. You've seen one. Where? Naruto smirked, enjoying his sudden advantage. Perhaps. What do these balls do? If you gather all 7, they grant you any wish, she said, watching his expression shift from skepticism to intrigue. Any wish? You're lying. I'm not. It's an ancient legend, but it's real. I've already found 3 of them. She pulled her backpack around and quickly showed him the spheres inside, each glowing with inner light, marked with different numbers of stars. Naruto's scouter blinked as it scanned the balls. Interesting. The energy signature is unusual. So you have seen one. He nodded slowly. In a cave nearby. I thought it was just some strange rock that happened to have an energy reading. Bulma took a tentative step toward him. I need that ball. It's part of a set. And why should I help you get it? Because, she paused, thinking quickly. Because if I get all 7, I could wish for something that helps you too. Naruto laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. I need no wishes, human. I am a Saiyan elite. A distant explosion interrupted their standoff. Both turned to see smoke rising from the valley below. Naruto's scouter beeped rapidly. Multiple power signatures, he said. Still weak by my standards, but armed with energy weapons. Bulma's face paled. The Red Ribbon Army. They must be after the Dragon Balls too. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Red Ribbon Army? Bad guys. Really bad guys. Military organization that wants to take over the world. She looked at him with sudden calculation. Which, I guess, makes them your competition. The Saiyan's lips curved into a predatory smile. Competition? Hardly. But they might provide some entertainment. The sound of engines grew closer, vehicles moving up the mountain path. They'll kill me if they find me, Bulma said, genuine fear in her voice. I've already taken 3 balls they were hunting. Naruto studied her for a moment, then made a decision. The cave with the ball you seek is this way. If these soldiers follow, I'll deal with them. Why help me? I'm not helping you. I'm satisfying my curiosity about these Dragon Balls. And maybe finding some worthy opponents after years of hunting nothing but animals. He turned and leapt toward the rocky outcropping with inhuman speed. After a moment's hesitation, Bulma ran after him, wondering if she'd made a deal with the devil, or something far worse. The cave was smaller than Bulma expected, barely large enough for them to stand upright. At its center, nestled in a natural stone pedestal, sat the 4-star Dragon Ball, glowing softly in the dim light. It's beautiful, she whispered, approaching reverently. Naruto leaned against the cave wall, arms crossed. It's a ball. It's not just a ball. She stopped, realizing explanations would be wasted on him. Instead, she carefully lifted the sphere, feeling its familiar warmth. 4 down, 3 to go. The moment the ball left its resting place, the ground trembled. What did you do? Naruto demanded, straightening as dust rained from the cave ceiling. Nothing. Sometimes they're booby-trapped, but I didn't touch anything else. A mechanical voice echoed through the cave entrance. Attention. We have you surrounded. Surrender the Dragon Balls immediately. Bulma clutched the newly acquired ball to her chest. Red Ribbon. They followed us. Naruto's expression shifted from annoyance to anticipation. Good. I was getting bored. You don't understand, they have tanks, guns, everything. He laughed. Do I look concerned? Without waiting for an answer, he strode toward the cave entrance. Bulma hesitated, then hurried after him, stuffing the 4th ball into her backpack. The scene outside confirmed her fears. At least 20 soldiers in the distinctive red uniforms surrounded the cave, backed by 2 armored vehicles with mounted guns. A man with a captain's insignia stepped forward. Hand over the Dragon Balls, girl, and we might let you live. Naruto stepped in front of Bulma, his tail now unwrapped and swishing behind him. The soldiers murmured at the sight. What is that thing? Some kind of mutant? The captain raised his hand for silence. Whatever you are, stand aside. This doesn't concern you. Naruto's scouter beeped as he scanned the troops. Power levels between 5 and 8. Captains at 12. He sounded disappointed. Hardly worth the effort. I warned you, the captain growled, raising his pistol. Men, prepare to, he never finished the command. Naruto vanished from Bulma's side and reappeared directly in front of the captain, moving faster than her eyes could track. With one casual motion, he flicked the man's forehead, sending him flying backward into the side of a tank, where he crumpled unconscious. The soldiers froze in shock, then opened fire. Bullets sprayed toward Naruto, who stood perfectly still. The projectiles seemed to hit an invisible barrier inches from his body, falling harmlessly to the ground. "Is this really the best your world can offer?" he asked, genuine disappointment in his voice. One of the tank gunners recovered enough to swing the main cannon toward him. Naruto raised 2 fingers, and a beam of energy shot from them, slicing through the weapon like butter. The tank exploded, sending soldiers diving for cover. Bulma watched in awe as the Saiyan moved through the Red Ribbon forces like a force of nature. He didn't just defeat them, he dismantled them. Every movement was efficient, powerful, and terrifyingly casual. He caught bullets, redirected energy blasts, and shattered weapons with flicks of his fingers. In less than a minute, the entire squad lay unconscious or groaning on the ground. The remaining tank burned, black smoke spiraling into the sky. Naruto turned back to her, not even breathing hard. Pathetic. Bulma stared, her scientific mind racing to understand what she'd just witnessed. "How did you do that?" "The speed, the energy projection, everything. Basic key manipulation. Every Saiyan child masters it before they can walk." He kicked a fallen rifle, sending it skittering across the ground. "Your species relies too much on toys." "Ki? You mean life energy?" Bulma's eyes widened. "You can manipulate it externally?" He gave her a curious look. "Your scientists don't understand Ki. There are theories, but nothing concrete. Nothing like what you just did." Naruto seemed to consider this, then shrugged. "Another sign of your planet's primitive development." A weak voice interrupted them. "It doesn't matter what you are, the Red Ribbon Army will hunt you down." The captain had regained consciousness, blood trickling from his temple as he glared up at them. "Tell your leaders," Naruto said, crouching beside the man, "that this mountain range is under my protection. The next soldiers who enter will not leave alive." The threat would have been more convincing if not for the fact that all the soldiers, while badly beaten, were still breathing. Bulma noted this with interest. For someone supposedly here to wipe out humanity, he'd been remarkably restrained. "We should go," she said as the captain passed out again. "They'll send reinforcements when this squad doesn't report back." Naruto straightened. "I fear no reinforcements." "Maybe not, but I'd rather not stick around." She hesitated, then added, "My vehicle broke down. I could use a lift to somewhere safe." He raised an eyebrow. "And why would I help you?" Bulma smiled slyly. "Because I know where the other Dragon Balls are. And because I'm guessing after 16 years alone in the woods, you might be curious about the world you're supposedly here to conquer." For a long moment, he simply stared at her. Then, to her surprise, he laughed, a genuine sound without the earlier menace. "You're either very brave or very foolish, human. The name's Bulma. Bulma Brief. And I'm both." He considered her, head slightly tilted. "Very well, Bulma Brief. I'll take you to this somewhere safe. Consider it payment for the entertainment these soldiers provided." Before she could respond, he wrapped an arm around her waist and launched them both into the sky. Bulma screamed, clutching his armor as the ground fell away at terrifying speed. "Are you crazy?" she shouted over the rush of wind. Naruto grinned down at her, blue eyes alight with mischief. "You wanted a lift." As they soared above the mountains, Bulma's terror gradually transformed into exhilaration. The world spread beneath them in a patchwork of forests, rivers, and distant cities. She'd never seen anything like it. "This is how you travel?" she asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming fear. "It's efficient." "It's amazing," she admitted. "Where did you learn to fly?" "All Saiyans can fly. We're warriors born." There was pride in his voice, but also something else, loneliness, perhaps. Tell me about your people, Bulma said, genuinely interested. Your world. Naruto was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than before. Planet Vegeta. Red skies, high gravity. A world of warriors serving under King Vegeta and the Saiyan elite. His expression hardened. We are the most powerful fighting race in the galaxy. Then why send babies to conquer planets? Why not adult warriors? His grip on her waist tightened fractionally. Infants adapt to planetary conditions better. And it tests our strength. Only the worthy survive. Bulma couldn't hide her horror. They sent you as a baby. Alone. With programming and equipment. I was meant to grow strong enough to complete my mission by adulthood. That's. She trailed off, unable to find words. Our way, he finished simply. They flew in silence after that, each lost in thought. Eventually, Bulma pointed toward a city on the horizon. There. West City. I have a home there. Naruto altered course, descending gradually. As they approached the sprawling metropolis, Bulma felt him tense. So many humans, he muttered. I've avoided the cities. Why? Afraid of us weak earthlings, she teased, trying to lighten the mood. His expression remained serious. Not afraid. Waiting. Observing. Learning your weaknesses. Right. The whole conquest thing. She pointed to a massive domed compound near the city's edge. That's Capsule Corporation. My family's company. Naruto's eyes widened slightly as they approached. Your family controls this structure. The whole company. My dad invented capsule technology. We're kind of a big deal. He landed on a private balcony with unexpected gentleness, setting her down carefully. Thanks for the lift, Bulma said, straightening her clothes. And, for saving me from the Red Ribbon Army. Naruto nodded once, already turning to leave. Wait, she called. Where are you going? Back to my territory. I've been in the open too long. Bulma stepped forward. You could stay. I have questions about your technology, your biology, I'm not a specimen for you to study, human. Bulma, she corrected automatically. And I didn't mean it like that. I. Just. She paused, considering her next words carefully. You helped me. Let me help you. Information exchange. Scientist to, whatever you consider yourself. Warrior, he supplied. Right. Warrior. She gestured to his scouter. That thing seen better days. I could probably make you a better one if you let me examine it. Interest flickered across his face despite his obvious reluctance. You could replicate Saiyan technology. I could try. Dad and I reverse engineer alien tech all the time. At his skeptical look, she added, okay, not alien. Just stuff we don't understand yet. Naruto seemed to debate internally before responding. I will consider your offer. A sudden beeping from his scouter interrupted their conversation. The device flashed with symbols Bulma couldn't read, but Naruto's expression shifted dramatically as he read them. What is it? She asked. A transmission. From the Empire. His voice held surprise and something like apprehension. First clear one in years. What does it say? Naruto's eyes met hers, suddenly guarded. My handler is coming to Earth. To check on my progress. Your handler. Commander Zorn. Elite Saiyan warrior and overseer of conquest missions. His tail flicked anxiously. He'll expect results. Bulma felt a chill run through her. Results as in. Evidence that I've begun weakening this world's defenses. Preparing it for full invasion. But you haven't. No. They stared at each other, the implications hanging heavy between them. How long until he arrives? Bulma asked quietly. 3 months. Not long enough. Long enough for what? Naruto's expression hardened into determination. To figure out what I'm going to do. Commander Zorn cut the transmission link and leaned back in his command chair, eyes fixed on the distant blue planet growing steadily larger on his view screen. Status report, he barked to the pilot. 3 months to arrival, Commander. The Scout's pod is still transmitting from the northern hemisphere. Zorn nodded, satisfied. 16 years was longer than usual for a conquest mission, but Naruto had been a special case. The son of 2 elite warriors, with an infant power level that suggested extraordinary potential. Planet Earth had been chosen specifically as a testing ground worthy of his abilities. Prepare a full scan of the planet's defensive capabilities, he ordered. I want to know what our young elite has been facing. Yes, Commander. Zorn's tail flicked thoughtfully as he studied the planet. The transmissions from Naruto's pod had been fragmented for years, a technical malfunction they hadn't anticipated. But the boy had survived, which spoke to his Saiyan resilience. Let's hope you haven't gone soft, young warrior, he murmured. The Empire has plans for you. Back at Capsule Corp, Bulma led Naruto through the sprawling complex toward her private lab. He walked stiffly, every sense clearly on alert as they passed various employees who stared openly at his armor and tail. Relax, she whispered. People here are used to weird stuff. I'm not weird, he growled. I'm Saiyan. Right, right. Just try not to look like you're about to murder everyone. His scowl deepened, but he made a visible effort to appear less threatening. It didn't help much. Bulma's lab was a chaotic collection of half-finished inventions, computer terminals, and workbenches covered in tools. Naruto immediately began examining everything, his curiosity evident despite his attempts to appear disinterested. What is all this? He asked, picking up what looked like a watch but clearly wasn't. Projects. Ideas. Things that might change the world someday. She cleared a space on her main workbench. So, about your scouter. Naruto hesitated, then slowly removed the device from his face. If you damage it, I won't, she promised, taking it with reverent care. This is incredible technology. The energy readings alone are. She trailed off, already lost in examination. Naruto watched her work, fascination gradually replacing suspicion as she disassembled parts of the device, scanning components and making notes faster than he could follow. You understand this? He asked after several minutes. Some of it. The power source is nothing like anything we have on Earth. But the scanning algorithms, the display technology, those I can work with. She looked up, excitement clear in her blue eyes. I could definitely improve this. Maybe even expand its functionality. In 3 months. Bulma's expression sobered as she remembered the deadline. Why does that matter so much? You said you've been here 16 years. What's changed? Naruto moved to the window, looking out at the city spread below them. For a moment, he seemed to be wrestling with himself. Saiyan children are sent on conquest missions as tests of strength and adaptability. But we're not abandoned. We're monitored. Evaluated. His voice hardened. If I have nothing to show for 16 years on this planet, Commander Zorn won't just be disappointed. He'll consider me a failure. And what happens to failures in Saiyan culture? He turned to face her, expression grim. They don't survive. Bulma set down the scouter components. So you either have to start destroying Earth, or convince him there's a reason I haven't. A strategic reason that serves the Empire better than simple conquest. Is there? Naruto's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw real uncertainty in them. I don't know. The admission seemed to cost him something. Bulma approached slowly, stopping just short of where he stood. In the 3 months before he arrives, you could learn about our world. Really learn about it, not just observe from a distance. Then decide if it's worth destroying. And if I decide it is? She swallowed hard. Then at least it'll be an informed decision. Not just following orders you received as a baby. Naruto studied her face, searching for deception. Finding none, he nodded slowly. 3 months. I'll learn about your world. But understand this, Bulma brief, I am Saiyan. My mission comes first. She held his gaze, unflinching. We'll see about that. As if on cue, an alarm blared throughout the complex. Red lights flashed in the lab, and a computerized voice announced, security breach in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately. Naruto tensed, instantly alert. What is that? Bulma rushed to a computer terminal. Someone's broken into the secure storage area. Where I put the Dragon Balls. Security camera footage appeared on screen, showing armed men in familiar red uniforms storming through a hallway. Red Ribbon, Naruto growled. They followed us here. But how? We flew. They must have tracked the Dragon Balls somehow. He was already moving toward the door. Where is this Sector 7? Bulma grabbed a capsule from her desk. 2 floors down. But there are at least 30 soldiers. Maybe more. Naruto's lips curved in a predatory smile. Good. I was disappointed by the last group. These will be elites. They're best fighters. Then perhaps they'll last 30 seconds instead of 15. Before she could argue, he was gone, moving faster than her eyes could track. Bulma hesitated only a moment before running after him, activating the capsule to reveal a compact laser pistol. Going to get myself killed following an alien psychopath, she muttered. Definitely not how I saw this day going. By the time she reached Sector 7, the battle, if you could call it that, was already underway. Red Ribbon soldiers lay scattered across the hallway, most unconscious, some groaning in pain. Naruto stood in the center of the chaos, holding a man in an officer's uniform by the throat. Who sent you? The Saiyan demanded. General Blue, the officer choked out. He wants the Dragon Balls for Commander Red. And how did you find them? Tracking device on the girl's bag. Naruto dropped the man, who crumpled to the floor gasping for air. He turned to Bulma, who had stopped at the edge of the destruction. You led them straight to your home, he said, accusation clear in his voice. I didn't know they had trackers, she protested, picking her way through the fallen soldiers. Is anyone dead? Naruto seemed surprised by the question. No. They're too weak to be worthy of killing. Relief washed over her face. Good. I mean, they're terrible people, but still. He studied her reaction with curiosity. You care about the lives of your enemies? I care about life in general. She approached the storage vault door, which had been partially melted by some kind of cutting tool. We need to move the Dragon Balls somewhere safer. Inside the vault, the 4 glowing spheres sat undisturbed in a protective case. Bulma quickly gathered them. I know a place they won't find, she said. A remote island where an old martial arts master lives. Friend of my dad's. Naruto crossed his arms. These balls are clearly valuable to multiple groups. Why not just use your wish and be done with them? Because I don't have all 7 yet. And because. She hesitated, then admitted, I'm still deciding what to wish for. World domination, he suggested with a hint of sarcasm. No. That's what the Red Ribbon Army wants. She secured the balls in a new bag. I was thinking something more personal. Like? Bulma blushed slightly. None of your business, monkey boy. His eyes narrowed at the nickname, but before he could retort, the building shook with a massive explosion. Dust rained from the ceiling. That came from above, Naruto said, already moving. Your lab. They raced back upstairs to find the laboratory in flames, half the ceiling collapsed. Through the newly created hole, they could see a military helicopter hovering overhead, more soldiers rappelling down into the building. My research! Bulma cried, rushing toward a particular workbench where parts of Naruto's scouter still lay. Forget it. Naruto grabbed her arm, pulling her back as another section of ceiling collapsed where she would have been standing. We need to leave. For once, she didn't argue. Clutching the bag of Dragon Balls, she let Naruto lead her toward a rear exit. They were nearly there when a tall, blond man stepped into their path. Unlike the other soldiers, he wore a pristine blue uniform with officer's insignia. Going somewhere? He asked, his voice coldly elegant. General Blue, Bulma whispered, recognition and fear in her voice. Blue's eyes flicked from Bulma to Naruto, lingering on his tail with interest. What an unusual specimen. The commander will be pleased when I bring you in for study. Naruto stepped forward, positioning himself between Blue and Bulma. You're welcome to try. The general smiled, dropping into a perfect fighting stance. I've heard about you. The demon who defeated my men in the mountains. Let's see how you fare against someone with real power. To Bulma's surprise, Blue moved with incredible speed, closing the distance to Naruto in a heartbeat. His fist connected with the Saiyan's face with enough force to crack concrete. Naruto didn't budge an inch. Real power? He asked, sounding genuinely disappointed. Is this really the best your Earth can offer? Blue's confident expression faltered as Naruto casually caught his next punch. The Saiyan's grip tightened, bones cracking audibly as Blue gasped in pain. Your power level is 28, Naruto said, his scouter beeping as he read the number. Better than your men. Still nothing to me. With a casual flick, he sent Blue flying across the room into a wall. The general slumped to the floor, unconscious but breathing. We need to go, Bulma urged, pulling at Naruto's arm. The whole building could collapse. He nodded, scooping her up effortlessly and leaping through the hole in the ceiling. The helicopter pilots barely had time to register their emergence before Naruto was past them, soaring into the sky with Bulma and the Dragon Balls clutched securely. That was close, she breathed, watching Capsule Corp recede behind them. My parents are going to freak when they get back from their cruise. Your military forces are persistent, Naruto observed. But weak. They're not my military forces. The Red Ribbon Army is a terrorist organization trying to take over the world. She adjusted her grip on his armor. And General Blue is one of their strongest officers. Most people couldn't stand up to him. Most people aren't Saiyan. There was pride in his voice, but also thoughtfulness. Your world is not what I expected. How so? He was silent for a moment, seemingly organizing his thoughts. In 16 years, I've stayed hidden, watching from a distance. I saw a primitive world, technologically inferior to much of the galaxy. Gee, thanks, she muttered. But today, he continued, ignoring her interruption, I've seen advanced technology in your lab. Military forces with organization and strategy. And you, a human female with no fighting power, facing dangers without cowering. Was that a compliment? An observation? His eyes met hers briefly. Your world is more complex than I assumed. Bulma smiled. That's a start, I guess. Where are we going? This island you mentioned? Kame House. It's far from here, in the middle of the ocean. She pointed east. That way. And we should hurry. The Red Ribbon Army won't give up easily. Naruto adjusted course, his ki flaring as he accelerated. Bulma couldn't help the exhilarated laugh that escaped her as they cut through the clouds. This is amazing, she shouted over the wind. Naruto's expression remained serious, but something like amusement flickered in his eyes. Flying is convenient. It's freedom, she corrected. Don't pretend you don't enjoy it. For the briefest moment, his stoic facade cracked, and a genuine smile crossed his face. Perhaps. As they soared over the landscape toward the distant ocean, neither noticed the small drone tracking them from a safe distance, its camera focused on the strange pair and the glowing balls they carried. In a laboratory hidden deep underground, a gray-haired scientist watched the footage with growing interest. Fascinating, Dr. Gero murmured, fingers steepled beneath his chin. Absolutely fascinating. On his screen, the blonde warrior with a tail flew with speed and power that defied human limitations, carrying the blue-haired woman as if she weighed nothing. The readings from the drone's sensors showed energy outputs that should have been impossible. Computer, begin analysis of subject's energy signature, he commanded. Compare with existing database. Analysis initiated, the computer responded. Preliminary results indicate unknown energy type. Similar to key manifestation in Subject 22, but significantly more potent. Dr. Gero smiled coldly. A new specimen for my collection. And perhaps the key to perfecting my androids. He pressed a button, and a hidden door slid open to reveal a laboratory filled with mechanical parts, suspended animation pods, and the beginnings of what appeared to be humanoid robots. The Red Ribbon Army may want the Dragon Balls, he said to himself, but I've found something far more valuable. The screen showed Naruto and Bulma disappearing into the distance, unaware that their journey had just become significantly more complicated. Kane House was exactly as Bulma had described, a small pink building on an otherwise deserted island in the middle of nowhere. Naruto landed on the beach, setting Bulma down gently as an elderly man emerged from the house. Bulma. What a pleasant surprise, the old man called, adjusting his sunglasses. His cheerful expression faltered when he spotted Naruto. And you've brought a friend? Master Roshi, this is Naruto. She hesitated. Complicated. Roshi approached cautiously, his experienced eyes taking in Naruto's armor, the scouter, and particularly the tail wrapped around his waist. Not human, the master said simply. No, Naruto confirmed. Saiyan. Never heard of your kind. Roshi's casual tone belied the alertness in his posture. But I sense tremendous power in you, young man. Naruto's scouter beeped as he scanned the old human. His eyes widened fractionally. Power level 139. Significantly higher than any human I've encountered so far. Roshi chuckled. Well, I've been training for a couple hundred years. Picks up the numbers a bit. Couple hundred. Naruto looked to Bulma for confirmation. Master Roshi is older than he looks, she explained. He's the turtle hermit, greatest martial artist of his generation. Generations, plural, Roshi corrected with a wink. Now, what brings you two to my humble island? Running from trouble, if I had to guess. Bulma quickly explained about the Dragon Balls, the Red Ribbon Army, and their narrow escape. She carefully omitted Naruto's original mission to conquer Earth, simply describing him as an alien visitor. I see, Roshi said when she finished. And you think the balls will be safer here? At least temporarily, she nodded. Until I can figure out where the remaining three are and how to get them without the Red Ribbon Army on our tails. Well, you're welcome to stay as long as needed. The old master's eyes twinkled mischievously. Always happy to have a pretty young lady around. Naruto stepped forward, eyes narrowing. You will show proper respect. Roshi raised an eyebrow, then laughed. Protective, aren't we? Don't worry, son. My bark is worse than my bite these days. Bulma rolled her eyes. Ignore him, Naruto. Master Roshi is harmless. Mostly. As they followed the old man inside, Naruto scanned the modest house with obvious curiosity. Everything about Earth seemed to fascinate him when he thought no one was looking. So, Roshi said as they settled in the living room, what exactly is a Saiyan, young man? And what brings you to our little planet? Naruto tensed, glancing at Bulma. She gave him an encouraging nod. We are warriors, he began cautiously. The strongest race in the galaxy. We identify valuable planets and prepare them for sale to interested parties. Sale. Rashi's tone remained conversational. And Earth is one such planet. It was my assignment, yes. Was? Naruto crossed his arms. My mission parameters have become unclear. Rashi stroked his beard thoughtfully. I see. And how does Bulma fit into this? She doesn't, Naruto said quickly. We met today. Our interaction was coincidental. He saved me from the Red Ribbon Army, Bulma added. Twice, actually. Did he now? Rashi studied the Saiyan with new interest. Not very conqueror-like behavior, saving the natives. Naruto scowled. They were unworthy opponents. It would have been dishonorable to let them harm someone who couldn't defend herself. Ah, so there is a code of honor among your people? Of course. He seemed offended by the question. We are warriors, not mindless beasts. Rashi nodded sagely. Honor is good. A warrior without honor is just a killer. Something in the old man's words seemed to resonate with Naruto. His posture relaxed slightly as he considered them. My supervisor is coming to check on my progress, he said after a pause. In 3 months. And what will you tell this supervisor? Rashi asked gently. I don't know. The simple admission hung in the air. Bulma watched emotions flicker across Naruto's face, confusion, frustration, and something deeper she couldn't quite identify. Well, Rashi said, standing up with a stretch, 3 months is plenty of time to figure things out. In the meantime, you're welcome to stay here. We can't impose, Bulma began, but Rashi waved her off. Nonsense. It's been too quiet around here lately. My student Krillin is off training in the mountains, and a little company would do me good. He winked at Naruto. Besides, I'm curious about this Saiyan fighting style. Perhaps we could exchange techniques. To Bulma's surprise, interest sparked in Naruto's eyes. You would spar with me? If you think you can keep up with an old man, Rashi challenged good-naturedly. Naruto actually smiled, a small, predatory thing, but genuine. That would be acceptable. Excellent. We'll start tomorrow. Rashi turned to Bulma. Now, let's get those Dragon Balls secured and figure out where the others might be. As they followed Rashi to a hidden safe room beneath the house, Bulma couldn't help wondering at the strange turn her life had taken. This morning, she'd been a scientist on a treasure hunt. Now she was harboring an alien warrior who might be Earth's greatest threat or, just possibly, its unexpected defender. One thing was certain, the next 3 months would change everything. Chapter 2, Power and Pride. 2 months passed like a blur. Naruto had never expected to adapt to human living so quickly, but here he was, sitting cross-legged on Kame House's beach, eyes closed as the morning sun warmed his face. His tail swished lazily in the sand behind him as the rhythmic sounds of waves crashed against the shore. You're getting better at that, Rashi commented, approaching from the house with 2 steaming cups. Meditation never seemed your strong suit when you first arrived. Naruto opened one eye. Saiyans don't meditate. We fight. And yet, the old master said, handing him a cup, here you are, meditating. I'm conserving energy, Naruto corrected, accepting the tea with a nod. But there wasn't much conviction in his voice. The truth was, he'd found an unexpected peace in these quiet morning rituals Rashi had introduced him to. The turtle hermit settled beside him, his weathered face breaking into a knowing smile. Call it what you will. Your ki control has improved dramatically since you started conserving energy each morning. Naruto couldn't argue with that. The old man might be eccentric and occasionally infuriating with his perverted ways, but his understanding of energy manipulation was impressive for a human. Different from Saiyan techniques, but effective in its own right. Where's Bulma? Naruto asked, noticing the house was quieter than usual. Supply run to the mainland. Said she needed parts for that project she's working on. Rashi sipped his tea. She should be back this afternoon. Naruto nodded, ignoring the slight sense of disappointment he felt. Over the past months, he'd grown accustomed to Bulma's presence, her constant questions about Saiyan technology, her explosive temper when experiments failed, her surprising resilience in the face of challenges. For a human with a power level of 5, she had the spirit of a warrior. His scouter beeped suddenly, pulling him from his thoughts. The device, now significantly modified thanks to Bulma's tinkering, displayed an incoming transmission. Naruto tensed, setting down his tea. "Commander Zorn?" "No," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Just a routine scan." The scouter detected several power signatures approaching the island. Rashi was immediately alert. "Red ribbon again?" "Unlikely." Naruto stood, scanning the horizon. "The power levels are too high. Between 100 and 150 each. 5 signatures total." "That's concerning," Rashi said, rising to his feet with surprising agility for his age. Not many humans register that high. Naruto had learned that the hard way during their sparring matches. Despite his unassuming appearance, Master Rashi had consistently surprised him with techniques that occasionally even gave a Saiyan elite pause. Not that Naruto would ever admit it. There, he pointed toward the northern horizon, where tiny specks appeared in the sky. "They're flying. Without vehicles." "Key manipulation," Rashi confirmed grimly. Not many practitioners left on Earth with that level of skill. As the figures grew closer, Naruto unwrapped his tail from his waist, letting it move freely in preparation for combat. The wind carried unfamiliar energy signatures, not human, not Saiyan, something artificial. "Yo! Anyone home?" a voice called as the 5 figures landed on the beach in perfect formation. They looked human at first glance, 3 men and 2 women, all wearing identical red uniforms with a distinctive emblem on their chests. "Can we help you?" Rashi asked, his casual tone belying his combat-ready stance. The leader, a tall man with short black hair and cold eyes, stepped forward. "We're looking for the alien." His gaze locked onto Naruto. "There he is. Subject N1, as described." Naruto's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "We're the Red Ribbon androids," the man replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm Android 9. These are 10 through 13. He gestured to his companions. "Dr. Gero sends his regards." "Dr. Gero?" Rashi murmured. "The Red Ribbon Army scientist." "The very same," a female android with long silver hair confirmed. "Though he operates independently now. His interests are more scientific than political." Naruto crossed his arms. "What do you want with me?" Android 9 clasped his hands behind his back. "Simply put, we're here to collect you. Dr. Gero has been studying the energy readings from your battle at Capsule Corporation. He's very interested in your unique physiology." "I'm not a specimen to be collected," Naruto growled, power beginning to radiate from him in visible waves. "We anticipated resistance," Android 10, a burly man with a mohawk, said with obvious excitement. "In fact, we hoped for it. Need to test our combat capabilities somehow." Rashi stepped between them. "This island is neutral territory. I suggest you leave peacefully." The androids exchanged amused glances. The legendary turtle hermit, Android 9 acknowledged with a slight bow. "Your techniques are in our database. Impressive for a human of your age, but ultimately irrelevant to our mission." Before anyone could respond, Android 13, a woman with short red hair, moved with blinding speed, appearing behind Rashi and striking him with enough force to send him crashing through the wall of Kame House. "Master Rashi!" Naruto shouted, momentarily distracted. It was all the opening the androids needed. They attacked in perfect synchronization, each moving with precision that spoke of extensive programming. Android 9 led with a flying kick aimed at Naruto's head, while 10 and 11 flanked him from opposite sides. The two female androids, 12 and 13, hung back, hands raised as energy began to gather between their palms. Naruto's Saiyan instincts kicked in instantly. He dodged 9's kick by millimeters, countering with an elbow strike that connected solidly with the android's chest. To his surprise, the impact felt like hitting solid steel, and 9 merely slid back a few feet rather than flying backward as a human would have. Interesting, 9 commented, rubbing his chest. Power level consistent with our data. Proceed with containment. The beach erupted into chaos as all 5 androids attacked simultaneously. Naruto fought with the ferocity and skill of a Saiyan elite, his movements a blur as he countered, dodged, and struck back. But something was wrong. These opponents were different from the red ribbon soldiers he'd faced before. They didn't tire. They felt no pain. And most concerning, they seemed to be analyzing his fighting style in real time, adapting to counter his techniques. "You're holding back," Android 11 observed after dodging a punch that should have connected. "Our data suggested you'd be at full power immediately." Naruto didn't respond, conserving his breath. It was true, he was restraining himself. Months of sparring with Rashi had taught him the value of measured force, of not destroying everything around him during combat. The beach, the house, the island itself, all could be obliterated if he unleashed his full power carelessly. A blast of energy from Android 12 caught him in the shoulder, singing his armor and momentarily disrupting his balance. Android 10 capitalized immediately, landing a powerful uppercut that sent Naruto airborne. The coordinated attack continued as 13 appeared above him, slamming both fists down to drive him back toward the beach. Naruto crashed into the sand, creating a small crater on impact. He rose quickly, spitting blood and glaring at his opponents who had regrouped in formation. "Is that all you've got?" he taunted, wiping his mouth. "I've faced training robots with more punch." Android 9's expression remained neutral. "We're operating at 45% capacity. Analyzing your capabilities before proceeding to capture." "Then let me give you something to analyze." Naruto planted his feet firmly in the sand, his aura flaring golden around him as he gathered his ki. The beach began to tremble, small objects rising into the air as the energy built. The androids tensed, sensors clearly registering the dramatic power increase. Android 9 raised a hand to his ear, apparently receiving instructions through some communication device. "Initiating suppression protocol beta," he announced. All 5 androids raised their hands simultaneously, and a strange, pulsing energy field emanated from their palms, converging on Naruto. As it washed over him, he felt an immediate and alarming sensation. His ki was being disrupted, the energy he'd gathered dissipating faster than he could control it. "What is this?" he grunted, struggling to maintain his power level. "Ki disruption field," Android 12 explained clinically. "Designed specifically to neutralize your energy signature based on our observations." Naruto staggered, feeling suddenly drained. His scouter beeped warnings as his power level fluctuated wildly. He'd never experienced anything like it, not even the highest gravity training on planet Vegeta had left him feeling this weakened. A blast of energy from the house interrupted the android's concentration. Master Rashi stood in the shattered doorway, his normally jovial face set in grim determination, hands cupped at his side as blue energy gathered between them. "Kemikamiche." The beam of concentrated energy shot toward the androids, forcing them to break formation to avoid it. The disruption field faltered, and Naruto seized the opportunity. Drawing on his remaining strength, he launched himself at Android 9, driving his fist through the machine's chest with enough force to shatter its internal components. Damage critical, 9 sputtered, mechanical eyes wide with something like surprise before going dark. The other 4 androids immediately shifted tactics, 2 engaging Rashi while 2 focused on Naruto. Without their leader's coordination, they were less effective but still dangerous, especially with Naruto weakened by the disruption field's effects. Their energy absorption has limits. Rashi shouted between blocking strikes from Android 10. Overload them. Naruto understood immediately. Rather than fighting the energy drain, he needed to push through it, give them more than they could handle. It was risky, potentially leaving him completely depleted, but he had no choice. Drawing deep on his Saiyan heritage, Naruto roared as he unleashed his power in a massive surge. His aura exploded outward, the sand beneath his feet turning to glass from the heat. The android's disruption field flickered as they struggled to absorb the sudden influx of energy. Systems overloading, Android 12 reported, her voice distorting as electricity crackled across her surface. Absorption capacity exceeded. Withdraw, 11 ordered. Return to base for recalibration. Naruto wasn't about to let them escape. With a burst of speed that belied his weakened state, he intercepted 12, grabbing her by the throat. Who sent you? What does this Dr. Gero want? The android's mechanical eyes fixed on him. Your biology is the key. The perfect energy source for the ultimate androids. Before he could extract more information, a blinding flash erupted from 12's body. Naruto released her, stumbling back as his vision filled with spots. When it cleared, all 4 remaining androids had vanished. Cowards, he spat, dropping to one knee as exhaustion finally caught up with him. The energy expenditure had been massive, and the disruption field's effects lingered, making it difficult to restore his key reserves. Rashi approached, looking battered but functional. You alright, son? Naruto nodded, though it was clearly a lie. They were prepared for me. Specifically designed to counter Saiyan biology. This Dr. Gero must have been studying you since your battle at Capsule Corporation. Rashi helped Naruto to his feet. We should warn Bulma when she returns. The mention of her name sent an unexpected spike of concern through Naruto. She's alone on the mainland. If they tracked me here, they might go after her next, Rashi finished grimly. Can you fly? Naruto tried to summon his ki, managing only a weak flicker. Not yet. The disruption field did something to my energy control. Then we'll take the boat. Rashi pointed to his small watercraft tied at the dock. We need to move quickly. As they made their way to the boat, Naruto glanced back at the fallen Android 9, its mechanical insides exposed where his fist had torn through it. I'm taking that with us. Bulma will want to examine it. Good thinking. Rashi nodded. The more we know about these androids, the better prepared we'll be next time. Naruto hoisted the mechanical corpse over his shoulder, ignoring the protest from his weakened muscles. A dark thought formed in his mind as they pushed away from the island. In all his years as a Saiyan warrior, he'd never encountered technology specifically designed to counter his biology. Someone had been studying him, analyzing his weaknesses. And in 2 weeks, Commander Zorn would arrive to evaluate his mission progress. The timing couldn't have been worse. Dr. Gero reviewed the combat data streaming across his laboratory screens with growing satisfaction. The android's performance had exceeded expectations, even with the loss of number 9. Energy disruption field at 72% effectiveness, he noted, fingers dancing across his keyboard. Subject N1 exhibited precisely the vulnerabilities predicted by our analysis. Behind him, a tall figure watched silently, face hidden in shadow. The Saiyan is stronger than your model suggested. He destroyed 9 despite the field. A miscalculation I won't repeat, Gero acknowledged without turning. But the data gathered today is invaluable. His energy signature, his combat adaptability, the way his power fluctuates under duress, all pieces of the puzzle. The puzzle being? Gero finally turned, eyes gleaming with scientific fervor. The perfect android, of course. One that combines the limitless energy potential of these Saiyans with the controlled precision of my mechanical designs. The figure stepped forward into the light, revealing a young man with pale skin and cold eyes. The red ribbon insignia adorned his uniform, but unlike the earlier androids, he moved with fluid, almost human grace. Android 17, Jero acknowledged. Your sister has returned with the others. 16 is repairing them now, 17 replied, a hint of disdain in his voice. They're outdated models. You should have sent me. Patience. You're not yet ready for combat deployment. Jero turned back to his screens, where freeze frames of Naruto in battle displayed his distinctive fighting style. Besides, I needed their simpler systems to test my theories without risking my more advanced creations. 17's expression remained neutral, but his eyes lingered on the images of the Saiyan. When will I get my turn? Soon enough, Jero promised. The final phase requires one more element, a direct cellular sample from our Saiyan friend. Once I have that. He gestured to a shadowed section of the laboratory where two pods stood, their contents obscured by condensation on the glass. Perfection. Bulma's shopping trip had been more successful than anticipated. Not only had she found the rare components needed for her latest project, but she'd also stumbled across some interesting information about the remaining Dragon Balls. As her air car zipped across the ocean toward Kame House, she couldn't help feeling excited about showing Naruto her discoveries. The Saiyan had proven an unexpectedly apt student when it came to Earth technology, his warrior's mind quickly grasping concepts once she explained them in terms of combat applications. He's going to flip when he sees what I've done with the Scouter modifications, she said to herself, patting the bag containing her latest invention. The original device had been impressive, but limited. Her version would do much more than just measure power levels. The first sign something was wrong came when Kame House appeared on the horizon. Even from a distance, she could see the damaged wall, the crater in the beach, and the distinct lack of people outside. No, 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 she muttered, accelerating. Not again. She'd barely landed when Rashi emerged from the house, relief evident on his face. Bulma. Thank goodness you're safe. What happened? She demanded, leaping from the vehicle. Where's Naruto? Inside. Resting. Rashi's expression turned grave. We were attacked. Red ribbon androids. Androids? Bulma repeated, rushing past him into the house. Since when does the Red Ribbon Army have androids? She found Naruto sitting at the kitchen table, looking worse than she'd ever seen him. His armor was damaged, dried blood at the corner of his mouth, and most alarmingly, the vibrant energy that usually radiated from him was dimmed. You look like hell, she said, dropping her bags and moving to examine him. I'm fine. He straightened, clearly trying to appear stronger than he felt. The old man is exaggerating. 5 specialized combat androids, Rashi corrected, following her in. Specifically designed to counter Saiyan energy patterns. They nearly had him. Bulma's hands stilled where they'd been checking Naruto for injuries. They were targeting you specifically. Not the Dragon Balls. They called me Subject N1, Naruto confirmed, his voice tight. Their creator, Dr. Jero, has been studying me since the battle at Capsule Corporation. Jero, Bulma breathed, recognition flashing in her eyes. I know that name. He was the Red Ribbon Army's chief scientist before they disavowed him for his extreme methods. Completely brilliant, completely amoral. Well, his brilliance nearly got us killed, Rashi said. The androids used some kind of energy disruption field that neutralized Naruto's ki. That shouldn't be possible, Bulma protested. Ki is a biological energy. You can't just shut it off externally. Tell that to the androids, Naruto muttered, flexing his hand and producing only a weak flicker of energy. It's still not fully recovered. Bulma's scientific mind was already racing through possibilities. They must have found a way to create an interference pattern that disrupts the body's natural energy flow. Theoretically possible, but the power requirements would be enormous unless they had detailed data on exactly how Saiyan energy works, Rashi finished for her. We brought you a present, Naruto said, gesturing toward the corner where the remains of Android 9 lay propped against the wall. Thought you might want to take it apart. Bulma's eyes lit up despite the serious situation. Perfect. If I can reverse engineer their disruption technology, maybe I can create a countermeasure. She hurried to examine the android, her practiced hands already identifying access panels and connection points. This is decades beyond anything I thought possible on Earth. The integration of biological and mechanical components is seamless. Focus on the defensive capabilities first, Naruto advised. If more come, I need to be able to fight at full strength. We should move, Rashi suggested. If they found us here, they'll be back with reinforcements. Bulma looked up from her examination. My family has a vacation house in the mountains, isolated, secure, and equipped with a lab. We can go there. What about the Dragon Balls? Naruto asked. Are they safe? I have them here, Rashi patted a bag nearby. All 4. Bulma smiled suddenly. Actually, I have good news on that front. She reached into her shopping bag and pulled out a glowing sphere. Found this at a collector's shop in West City. The 6-star ball. 5 down, 2 to go, Rashi noted with approval. And I have solid leads on the other 2, Bulma added. One is apparently in the possession of the Ox King in Fire Mountain. The other. She hesitated. That's the tricky one. According to rumors, it's somewhere in the northern glaciers. Naruto stood, wincing slightly but covering it quickly. Then we split up. Bulma and I will go to this mountain house and work on the android problem. The old man can retrieve the ball from this Ox King. Agreed, Rashi nodded. I know Ox King well, he's an old student of mine. Getting the ball from him will be simple. And the glaciers? Bulma asked. One problem at a time, Naruto replied. First priority is restoring my combat capabilities and understanding these androids. Then we worry about the final ball. As they packed their essential belongings, Bulma found herself watching Naruto with concern. In the 2 months they'd spent at Kame House, she'd never seen him truly injured or weakened. Even his most intense sparring sessions with Rashi had barely winded him. Seeing him vulnerable was unsettling. You really okay? She asked quietly when Rashi was out of earshot. Naruto glanced at her, his blue eyes holding hers for a moment before looking away. I've experienced worse. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. His tone was clipped, but lacked its usual edge. Bulma sighed, recognizing the pride that prevented him from admitting weakness. Well, I've made some improvements to your scouter while I was in the city. Should help with energy modulation once you're back to full strength. He looked genuinely interested despite his condition. What kind of improvements? For one thing, it can now interface with Earth technology. And I've expanded its scanning capabilities to identify not just power levels, but energy types. She couldn't help the pride in her voice. It should be able to detect the specific frequency of that disruption field next time, giving you advance warning. For the briefest moment, something like gratitude flashed across his face. Useful. Coming from Naruto, it was practically effusive praise. Bulma smiled, packing the last of her tools. Just don't get yourself killed before I finish the upgrade, okay? It would be a waste of good technology. His lips quirked in what might have been the ghost of a smile. Wouldn't want to inconvenience your research. Their eyes met again, and Bulma felt a sudden warmth that had nothing to do with scientific curiosity. These past 2 months had changed things between them, slowly transforming their initial wariness into something like friendship, though neither would ever use that word aloud. The moment was broken by Rashi's return. Everything's loaded in Bulma's air car. We should move quickly. Naruto nodded, all business again. Let's go. The Capsule Corporation mountain retreat was exactly what they needed, secluded, defensible, and equipped with state-of-the-art technology. Built into the side of a cliff, it offered both natural protection and spectacular views of the valley below. My dad designed this place as a combination vacation home and emergency shelter, Bulma explained as she deactivated the security systems. Paranoid, but useful in situations like this. Naruto scanned their surroundings with the practiced eye of a warrior. Elevated position. Limited approach vectors. Good sight lines. He nodded approvingly. Defensible. The interior was spacious yet practical, a central living area with adjoining kitchen, several bedrooms, and most importantly for their purposes, a fully equipped laboratory that rivaled the one at Capsule Corp headquarters. Home sweet home, at least for now, Bulma said, setting down her bags. Labs through there. Bedrooms down that hallway. Pick whichever you want. Naruto moved immediately to the large windows overlooking the valley, his posture tense despite his attempts to hide his weakened state. I'll take the room with the best vantage point. Of course you will, Bulma muttered, but there was no real annoyance in her tone. I'll get started on Android 9. The sooner we understand what we're dealing with, the better. Hours passed as Bulma worked, carefully disassembling the android to reveal its secrets. Naruto alternated between restless pacing and attempts to rebuild his ki. Reserves through the meditation techniques Rashi had taught him. By nightfall, they'd settled into a rhythm, Bulma occasionally calling him into the lab to observe some new discovery about their mechanical adversary. The energy disruption technology is incredible, she explained, pointing to a specialized component she'd isolated on her workbench. It doesn't just block ki, it actively absorbs it, converts it to mechanical energy, then uses that power to generate the disruption field. A feedback loop, Naruto observed, surprising her with his quick understanding. Exactly. The stronger you go, the more energy they have to use against you. She ran a hand through her hair, frustrated and impressed simultaneously. It's brilliant, really. Evil, but brilliant. Can you counter it? I think so. The absorption has limits, you already discovered that when you overloaded Android 12. I just need to find a way to protect your energy from being absorbed in the first place. She tapped a schematic on her computer screen. I'm thinking some kind of key insulation, integrated into your armor perhaps. Naruto nodded, glancing at where his damaged armor lay on a side table. How long? A few days at minimum. This isn't exactly established science we're working with. She gave him a pointed look. How's your recovery coming? He demonstrated by forming a small energy ball above his palm, stronger than earlier, but still far from his usual capabilities. Improving. But slowly. Well, don't push it. Master Rashi said rest was essential after ki disruption. She stretched, suddenly aware of how long she'd been working. Speaking of which, I need food and sleep. Even scientific geniuses have limits. They moved to the kitchen, where Bulma prepared a simple meal while Naruto watched with his usual intensity. His appetite, at least, seemed undiminished by his condition, and they ate in comfortable silence until Bulma's communicator beeped. Rashi, she said, checking the message. He's reached Fire Mountain and made contact with the Ox King. Should have the Dragon Ball by tomorrow. Good. Naruto's expression remained neutral, but something in his voice had shifted. That leaves only one. Bulma studied him across the table. You're thinking about your commander, aren't you? He arrives in what, 2 weeks now? 10 days. Naruto set down his fork. And I still don't know what I'm going to tell him. It was the most direct acknowledgement he'd made of his dilemma since they'd met. Bulma chose her next words carefully. What are your options? Complete my mission. Begin the conquest process as originally ordered. His voice was flat, emotionless. Or lie. Claim strategic reasons for the delay. There's a third option, Bulma suggested quietly. Naruto's eyes met hers, sharp and suddenly guarded. Which is? Tell him the truth. That you found Earth valuable for reasons beyond conquest. She held his gaze steadily. That there might be more to gain by alliance than destruction. He laughed, but it held no humor. You don't understand Saiyan politics. Or Commander Zorn. Then explain it to me, she challenged. I've spent 2 months learning about Saiyan technology, biology, even combat techniques. But you never talk about your society, your actual people. Naruto was silent for a long moment, his internal struggle visible despite his attempts to maintain a stoic facade. Finally, he spoke, his voice lower than usual. The Saiyan Empire thrives on conquest. It's our purpose, our economy, our way of life. Planets are assessed for value, conquered, then sold to the highest bidder through our partners in the Planet Trade Organization. His eyes took on a distant quality. A warrior's worth is measured by successful missions, by strength, by absolute loyalty to the Empire. And failure is not an option, Bulma guessed. Failure means death. He stated it simply, a fact rather than a complaint. Commander Zorn is an elite among elites, one of King Vegeta's most trusted advisors. He expects results. Even if those results mean destroying a planet with potential allies, advanced technology, valuable resources that could be traded rather than plundered. Naruto's expression softened fractionally. You really don't give up, do you? Not when I'm right. Bulma smiled despite the serious conversation. Look, I'm not asking you to betray your people. I'm suggesting there might be a way to serve both Earth and the Saiyan Empire. A diplomatic solution. Saiyans aren't known for diplomacy. Maybe it's time they learned. She reached across the table, hesitating briefly before placing her hand over his. You've changed in these past months, Naruto. I've seen it. You're not just a conquest machine following programming anymore. He stared at their hands, but didn't pull away. A true Saiyan wouldn't have these doubts. Or maybe a true leader would consider all strategic options, she countered. Isn't that what elite warriors do? Adapt? Find the best approach to victory? The question seemed to resonate with him. Before he could respond, however, an alarm blared throughout the house, red warning lights flashing from hidden panels. Perimeter breach, Bulma explained, already moving toward the security console. Something's triggered the outer sensors. Naruto was instantly alert, his weariness apparently forgotten as he moved to the windows, scanning the darkened valley below. I don't see anything. Bulma's fingers flew across the console. 3 objects approaching from the north. Fast. Androids? Can't tell yet. Too far for detailed scans. Naruto reached for his scouter, which Bulma had modified earlier that day. The device beeped as it locked onto the approaching signatures. Power levels 125, 130, and 140, he reported. Consistent with the androids we fought earlier. Damn it, Bulma muttered. How did they find us so quickly? Naruto's expression darkened. They must have planted a tracker on me during the fight. He turned to her, decision made. You need to leave. Take the Dragon Balls and go. What? No way. I'm not leaving you to face them alone, especially not in your condition. This isn't a debate, Bulma. His voice carried the authority of a warrior who expected to be obeyed. I can hold them off while you escape. And then what? Let them capture you so Jero can dissect you for his twisted experiments. She stood her ground, blue eyes flashing. Not happening. You're being irrational. Your power level is 5. You cannot fight androids. No, but I can outsmart them. She pointed to the android components spread across her workbench. I've been studying their technology for hours. I know how they work, how they track, how they process information. Naruto opened his mouth to argue further, but the security console beeped again. They've reached the outer perimeter, Bulma said, checking the readings. 2 minutes until they're at the door. Naruto made a sound of frustration. Fine. What's your plan? Bulma grabbed a small device from her workbench. This is a localized EMP generator I've been working on. It should temporarily disable their systems, not permanently, but long enough for us to get away. You just happen to have that ready? I'm a genius who regularly deals with robots gone wrong. Of course I have it ready. She tossed him the device. The range is limited, maybe 20 feet. You'll need to get them clustered together. Naruto examined the device skeptically. And if this fails? Then we go with Plan B, she replied, reaching into a cabinet and pulling out what looked like a modified rifle. Concentrated electromagnetic pulse. Shorter range, but more focused. Should fry their circuits if they get inside. Despite everything, Naruto felt a grudging respect for her preparedness. You have weapons for everything, don't you? Pretty much. She checked the charge on the rifle. Dad always says, hope for peace, prepare for robots. Wise man. Naruto moved toward the door. I'll draw them into the open. When they're grouped together, I'll use the EMP. Be careful, Bulma warned. You're still not at full strength. He paused, glancing back at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Stay inside until I give the all clear. Since when do I take orders from you? Since androids started hunting us. His tone softened fractionally. Please, Bulma. Stay safe. Before she could respond, he was gone, moving with the silent efficiency of a predator despite his weakened state. Bulma positioned herself at the window, pulse rifle ready, watching as Naruto emerged onto the cliff face outside the house. The night was clear, stars shining brightly above the mountain peaks. For a moment, everything was still. Then they came, three figures silhouetted against the moon, moving with the unnatural precision that marked them as androids. Bulma recognized Android 13 with her distinctive red hair, along with two she hadn't seen before, larger models with heavy armor plating. New designs, she murmured worriedly. Gero's adapting quickly. Naruto stood his ground as the androids landed in a semicircle before him. From her position, Bulma could hear their conversation through the partially open window. Subject N1, Android 13 greeted him with cold formality. Your resistance is noted but unnecessary. Dr. Gero merely wishes to study your unique biology. By dissecting me, no doubt, Naruto replied, his casual tone belying the tension in his stance. Your cooperation would ensure a more comfortable experience, one of the new androids stated, its voice deeper and more mechanical than 13's. Resistance will result in damage to both you and any associates. Associates like the human female inside? 13 added, looking directly toward the window where Bulma watched. Her presence has been noted. Bulma ducked instinctively, though she knew it was too late. They had sensors far more advanced than normal vision. Your quarrel is with me, Naruto said, power beginning to flare around him despite his weakened state. Leave her out of this. Impossible, the larger android responded. Dr. Gero's instructions were clear. Capture the Saiyan, eliminate witnesses and interference. Naruto's aura brightened, his anger providing fuel for his depleted ki reserves. Then you'll have to go through me first. Without warning, he launched himself at the androids, moving faster than Bulma expected given his condition. His first strike caught Android 13 by surprise, sending her crashing into one of the new models. The third android responded with a blast of energy that Naruto barely dodged, the beam carving a smoldering path across the cliff face. The battle was brutal but brief. Despite his determination, Naruto simply wasn't at full strength. The androids coordinated perfectly, one engaging him directly while the others analyzed his movements and attacked his blind spots. When he attempted to gather energy for a more powerful attack, they immediately activated their disruption field, draining his building ki before it could be released. Within minutes, Naruto was on one knee, breathing heavily as the three androids surrounded him. The EMP device lay unused at his feet, he'd never managed to get them grouped closely enough to use it effectively. Subject contained, the largest android reported, apparently communicating with a distant receiver. Proceeding with transport. And the female? Android 13 asked. Eliminate as instructed. Bulma's heart raced as 13 turned toward the house, palm raised as energy gathered for a blast that would likely bring the entire structure down around her. In that moment, she made a decision that was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Throwing open the window, she leveled the pulse rifle and fired directly at Android 13. The concentrated electromagnetic burst hit the android squarely in the chest, causing her systems to spark and convulse before she collapsed in a heap of twitching limbs. One down, Bulma called, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Who's next? The remaining androids turned toward her, momentarily distracted from Naruto. It was exactly the opening he needed. With a surge of effort that must have cost him dearly, Naruto lunged for the EMP device, activated it, and slammed it against the ground between the two androids. A wave of invisible energy pulsed outward. Both machines froze mid-motion, their systems shorting out in spectacular fashion as electricity arced across their metallic components. They toppled like felled trees, hitting the ground with heavy thuds that echoed across the valley. Naruto remained kneeling, clearly exhausted by the final effort. Bulma rushed outside, pulse rifle still ready in case any of the androids reactivated. "Are you okay?" she asked, reaching his side. "Fine," he managed, though he clearly wasn't. "That was reckless of you," says the guy who tried to take on 3 androids alone while operating at half capacity. She helped him to his feet. "We need to move. These 3 might be down, but Jero will send more when they don't report back." Naruto nodded, leaning on her more heavily than he would have normally allowed. "The glaciers. We need to get the last Dragon Ball before Zorn arrives. You're in no condition to travel, let alone search glaciers." "No choice," he insisted. "Time's running out." As they made their way back inside, Bulma couldn't help noticing how the normally proud Saiyan allowed her support without complaint. It spoke volumes about both his condition and how their relationship had evolved over the past months. "Let me at least patch you up first," she insisted. "And we're taking those androids with us. I want to make sure they can't track us again." Naruto didn't argue, which worried her more than his visible injuries. As she gathered supplies and began examining the androids for tracking devices, a new concern took root in her mind. If Naruto couldn't recover his full strength before Commander Zorn arrived, what chance did they have of convincing a Saiyan elite that Earth was worth preserving? The answer, she feared, was none at all. The northern glaciers were a stark contrast to the mountain retreat, endless expanses of white broken only by jagged ice formations that rose like crystal fortresses against the pale blue sky. Cold wind whipped across the snowfields, carrying ice particles that stung any exposed skin. 3 days had passed since the android attack. Naruto had recovered some of his strength through rest and the restorative properties of senzu beans, rare healing plants Rashi had provided from his personal store. They weren't at full potency due to being stored for years, but they'd accelerated his healing significantly. Now, bundled in thermal gear that made his Saiyan armor barely visible underneath, Naruto stood at the edge of a massive ice shelf, scouter scanning for energy signatures that might indicate the Dragon Ball's location. "Anything?" Bulma called from inside their temporary shelter, a Capsule Corp cold weather dome she'd brought for the expedition. "Nothing definitive," he replied, the wind carrying his voice away. "Too much interference from the ice itself. It has its own energy signature." Bulma emerged from the dome, wrapped in so many layers she could barely move. "The radar says it's within a 2-mile radius, but can't pinpoint it more precisely. Something about the glacial formations disrupts the signal." Naruto frowned, adjusting his scouter settings using the modifications Bulma had implemented. "Try recalibrating to filter out natural ice formations." "Already did. Twice." She shivered despite her layers. "We need to find it quickly." Storms in this region can last for weeks once they start, and there's a big one moving in from the north. Naruto glanced at the horizon where dark clouds were indeed gathering. Then we split up. Cover more ground. Bad idea. If either of us gets caught in a whiteout, we're done for. She pointed to a particularly large ice formation about a mile distant. Let's try there first. The radar showed stronger readings in that direction. They trudged across the snowfield, the going slower than Naruto would have liked. He could have flown, but Bulma couldn't, and he wasn't about to leave her alone in this environment, especially not with the risk of more androids appearing. The ice formation turned out to be the entrance to a vast cavern system, its interior glowing with an ethereal blue light that reflected off crystalline walls. Whoa, Bulma breathed, her voice echoing slightly. It's beautiful. Naruto was more concerned with practicality than aesthetics. The signal's stronger in here. The ball must be somewhere in these caves. They ventured deeper, following both the scouter readings and the dragon radar's increasingly precise directions. The temperature dropped further as they descended, but the wind at least was blocked by the cavern walls. There! Bulma suddenly exclaimed, pointing to a small alcove where a distinctive orange glow emanated. The 7-star ball. Naruto approached cautiously, scouter scanning for traps or hidden guardians. Finding none, he reached in and extracted the Dragon Ball, its 7 stars gleaming within the transparent sphere. That's all of them, Bulma said with obvious relief. Now we can. A massive tremor cut her off, the entire cavern shaking violently as ice cracked and shifted around them. What's happening? She shouted over the rumbling. Naruto's scouter beeped urgent warnings. The cavern's collapsing. We need to move, now. He grabbed Bulma around the waist and sprinted toward the entrance, dodging falling ice chunks as the tremors intensified. They were nearly at the exit when a massive section of the ceiling gave way directly in their path. Without hesitation, Naruto thrust the Dragon Ball into Bulma's hands, then shoved her clear of the falling ice. She tumbled through the entrance to safety as the collapse sealed the opening behind her, trapping Naruto inside. Naruto, she screamed, scrambling back to the now blocked entrance. Can you hear me? Silence answered her. Frantic, she pulled out a small device from her pack, a communicator tuned to the frequency of Naruto's scouter. Naruto, come in. Are you okay? Static crackled, then his voice came through, somewhat distorted but audible. I'm alive. Trapped in a secondary chamber. Minimal injuries. Relief flooded her. Thank goodness. Can you blast your way out? Negative. The ice structure is unstable. Any energy blast could bring the whole system down. Bulma looked around desperately, searching for another entrance. There must be another way in. The scouter detects a possible exit about half a mile deeper into the system. I'll try to reach it. Be careful, she urged. The storm's almost here. If you get out, you'll need to find shelter immediately. Understood. Get back to the dome. Don't wait for me if the storm hits. Like hell I won't, she muttered, though not directly into the communicator. Louder, she said, I'll try to find the other exit from outside. Just keep moving. Inside the cavern, Naruto picked himself up from where the collapse had thrown him. His thermal gear was torn in several places, but the Saiyan armor underneath had protected him from serious injury. The chamber he was in was smaller than the main cavern, with only one visible exit, a narrow tunnel leading deeper into the glacier. His scouter beeped, mapping what it could of the ice formation around him. The path Bulma suggested was there, but reaching it meant navigating a labyrinth of increasingly narrow passages. No choice, he muttered, starting down the tunnel. At least his Saiyan physiology made him more resistant to cold than humans, though even he had limits in these extreme conditions. As he made his way through the icy maze, Naruto found himself in an unusual position, depending on someone else for survival. If Bulma couldn't find the exit from outside, or worse, if she abandoned him to save herself in the face of the approaching storm, The thought stopped him in his tracks. No, she wouldn't leave. Despite everything logical telling him she should, despite the fact that any sensible being would prioritize their own survival, he knew Bulma brief would wait for him, storm be damned. The realization was both comforting and deeply unsettling. Outside, Bulma battled the increasingly harsh conditions as she circled the massive ice formation, searching for any sign of another entrance. The storm was moving in faster than predicted, visibility already dropping as wind-driven snow began to obscure the landscape. Come on, she muttered, checking both the dragon radar and a topographical scanner. There has to be another way in. Her communicator crackled. Bulma, status report. Still searching, she replied, relieved to hear Naruto's voice again. The storm's picking up. How are you doing in there? Making progress. The tunnel system is extensive but navigable. A pause, then, you should return to shelter. The temperature is dropping rapidly. I'm not leaving until you're out, she insisted. Just keep moving. I'll find the exit. The truth was, she was already losing feeling in her extremities despite her thermal gear. The storm was no ordinary blizzard, it was one of the legendary northern whiteouts that could plunge temperatures to lethal levels within minutes. After another half-hour of desperate searching, Bulma's scanner finally detected what might be an opening, a thin fissure in the ice about 20 feet up the formation's northern face. The climb would be treacherous, but she had no choice. Naruto, I think I found something, she reported. Northern side, about 20 feet up. Can your scouter confirm? Static answered her. The storm was now interfering with communications. Great, she muttered, securing her equipment and beginning the precarious ascent. The wind threatened to tear her from the ice wall with each gust, but she persisted, driving ice pitons into the surface to create handholds. By the time she reached the fissure, her hands were nearly numb despite her gloves. The opening was narrow, barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through, but it definitely led into the cavern system. Naruto, she called into the darkness. Can you hear me? No response. The howling wind likely drowned out her voice. Having no better option, Bulma pulled out a light stick, activated it, and squeezed through the opening into the icy tunnel beyond. Inside was marginally better than outside, at least protected from the direct force of the wind. The tunnel sloped downward, twisting deeper into the glacier's heart. Bulma moved as quickly as caution allowed, calling Naruto's name periodically despite the unlikelihood of him hearing. After what felt like hours but was likely only 30 minutes, the tunnel opened into a larger chamber filled with spectacular ice formations. Under different circumstances, she might have appreciated their beauty. Now, she only scanned desperately for any sign of the Saiyan. Naruto, she shouted, her voice echoing through the crystalline space. A distant sound answered her, not a voice, but the unmistakable crack of breaking ice. Then another, closer this time. Something or someone was moving through the caverns, breaking through obstacles. Bulma followed the sounds, hope rising with each step. The chamber connected to another tunnel, this one showing signs of recent disturbance, broken ice shards and scattered debris. Someone had definitely come this way, and recently. The tunnel ended abruptly at a wall of solid ice that seemed to have collapsed from above. As Bulma approached, the surface suddenly bulged outward, cracks spreading across it like a spiderweb. She barely had time to step back before the entire wall exploded forward, showering the tunnel with ice fragments. In the newly created opening stood Naruto, fist extended from the punch that had shattered the barrier. His thermal gear was in tatters, his breath visible in the frigid air, but he was unmistakably alive and, judging by the scowl on his face, thoroughly irritated by the situation. Took you long enough, Bulma said, relief making her voice shake slightly. What are you doing in here? He demanded, stepping through the opening. I told you to return to shelter. And I told you I wasn't leaving without you. Guess we're both stubborn. She grinned despite the cold. Besides, I found a way out. Naruto's expression softened fractionally. Show me. They retraced Bulma's path through the chambers and tunnels, moving as quickly as the treacherous footing allowed. By the time they reached the fissure where she'd entered, however, disaster struck. The opening had been sealed by fresh snow and ice, the storm outside now in full fury. Damn it, Bulma muttered, examining the blocked exit. The storm must have caused an avalanche. Naruto studied the barrier. Stand back. I'll blast through it. Wait. She grabbed his arm. The whole structure could collapse if you use too much energy. We need a controlled approach. He looked at her hand on his arm, then back to her face. What do you suggest? Use just enough ki to heat the ice, not shatter it. Melt a path rather than explode one. Naruto considered this, then nodded. Placing his palm against the ice barrier, he channeled his energy carefully, not the explosive force of a combat blast, but a steady, controlled heat that began to melt the packed snow and ice. Steam rose as the barrier gradually thinned, water dripping down to refreeze on the tunnel floor. After several minutes of concentrated effort, a small opening appeared, revealing the raging blizzard beyond. It's worse than I thought, Bulma said, peering through the hole. Visibility 0. We'll never find our way back to the dome in this. Naruto expanded the opening until it was large enough for them to pass through. The wind immediately howled into the tunnel, carrying stinging ice particles and a cold so intense it burned. We don't need to find the dome, he shouted over the wind. I can fly us above the storm. In these conditions, you're still not at full strength. It's our only option. We'll freeze if we stay here. Bulma knew he was right. With no supplies and temperatures continuing to drop, the caverns would become their tomb if they remained. Okay, but don't push yourself too hard. If we need to land and wait it out, say so. Naruto nodded, though they both knew his pride would never allow such an admission. He secured the Dragon Ball inside his armor, then wrapped an arm firmly around Bulma's waist. Hold tight, he instructed. It will be rough until we clear the storm's lower boundary. That proved to be an understatement. The moment they emerged from the fissure, the full fury of the blizzard engulfed them. Visibility was non-existent, the wind a physical force that buffeted them from all directions as Naruto struggled to gain altitude. Bulma clung to him desperately, face buried against his chest to shield it from the biting cold. Naruto's ki flickered around them, providing minimal protection and warmth as they ascended through the raging white chaos. His jaw was clenched with the effort, every muscle tensed as he fought against both the storm and his own not fully recovered strength. For long, terrifying minutes, they were at the mercy of the elements, climbing blindly through the maelstrom. Then, suddenly, they broke through into startling clarity. Above the storm cloud layer, the sky was a deep, pristine blue, the sun shining brilliantly on the cottony white expanse below them. We made it, Bulma breathed, lifting her head to take in the surreal beauty. Naruto didn't respond. His breathing was labored, face pale with exertion. The flight through the storm had cost him more than he'd anticipated, depleting his already diminished energy reserves. You need to land, Bulma said, noticing his condition. Now, before you pass out. I'm fine, he insisted, though the strain in his voice betrayed him. No, you're not. Look there. She pointed to a mountain peak protruding through the storm clouds about a mile distant. Land there. We can rest before continuing. For once, he didn't argue, adjusting course toward the rocky outcropping. Their landing was rougher than usual, Naruto stumbling slightly as his boots touched down on the snow-dusted rock. Bulma quickly guided him to a sheltered area where an overhanging ledge provided some protection from the wind. Let me see, she said, kneeling beside him as he sat heavily against the rock wall. It's nothing. Just, energy depletion. He tried to wave her off, but lacked the strength to be convincing. Bulma ignored his protests, checking his pulse and temperature with practiced efficiency. Your body temperature is dropping. We need to warm you up. Saiyans are resistant to cold. Not when they've exhausted their key reserves, apparently. She rummaged in her pack, producing a thermal blanket and an emergency heater. Your armor might protect against physical damage, but it's not designed for extreme cold, is it? Naruto shook his head slightly. Planet Vegeta has a warmer climate than Earth. Cold resistance wasn't a priority in armor design. Bulma activated the heater, placing it between them, then wrapped the thermal blanket around both their shoulders. Body heat conservation 101. Hope you don't mind getting cozy. Under normal circumstances, the proud Saiyan might have objected to such proximity. Now, however, he seemed almost grateful for the shared warmth as Bulma pressed against his side. The storm should pass within a few hours, she said, checking a weather scanner from her pack. Then we can make it back to civilization. Naruto nodded, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. The past days had taken a greater toll than he'd admitted, first the android attack, then the cave-in, and now the energy expenditure of flying through the blizzard. Even a Saiyan elite had limits. Rest, Bulma told him gently. I'll keep watch. Against all his training and instincts, Naruto felt himself drifting towards sleep, his head gradually coming to rest against Bulma's shoulder. The last thing he registered before consciousness faded was her arm tightening around him, holding him secure against the cold. The unexpected tenderness of the moment was shattered hours later by a sound that sent ice through Naruto's veins even as he jolted awake, the distinctive beep of his scouter detecting an approaching power signature. A massive one. What is it? Bulma asked, startled by his sudden alertness. Naruto was already on his feet, scouter scanning the sky above them where the storm had finally broken, revealing a clear twilight canvas of emerging stars. Power level 18,000, he said, voice tight with recognition. It's him. Who? But even as she asked, Bulma knew the answer. Commander Zorn. He's early. In the rapidly darkening sky, a point of light appeared, growing larger as it descended toward their position. Not a star, but a Saiyan pod, its distinctive spherical shape unmistakable even at a distance. He's tracked my scouter signal, Naruto realized, tension evident in every line of his body. He's coming directly here. Bulma stood beside him, gathering their scattered gear. What do we do? Run? No. Naruto's expression hardened into resolve. Running would only delay the inevitable. And a Saiyan never flees. But you're not recovered. If he's hostile, then I face my fate as a warrior. He turned to her, blue eyes intense. But you should go. Take the Dragon Balls and leave. Bulma crossed her arms stubbornly. Not happening. We're in this together. Before Naruto could argue further, the pod broke through the lower atmosphere with a sonic boom that echoed across the mountains. Its trajectory adjusted slightly, aiming directly for the peak where they stood. Within minutes, it had landed about 50 yards from their position, the impact creating a small crater in the rocky surface. Naruto moved to stand protectively in front of Bulma as the pod's door hissed open, releasing a cloud of vapor into the cold mountain air. A tall, imposing figure emerged, a Saiyan warrior in pristine armor similar to Naruto's but adorned with additional insignia marking his rank. His hair was short by Saiyan standards, black spikes swept back from a stern face bearing a thin scar across one cheek. A brown tail was wrapped securely around his waist. Commander Zorn, Naruto acknowledged, straightening to attention despite his weakened state. The commander surveyed the scene, the young Saiyan he'd sent to Earth 16 years ago, now grown into a warrior, and the blue-haired human female standing beside him. His expression revealed nothing as he stepped forward. Naruto. His voice was deep, carrying natural authority. You've grown. Yes, Commander. Zorn's eyes flicked to Bulma, then back to Naruto. I see you've acquainted yourself with the local species. Naruto tensed slightly. This is Bulma brief. She's a scientist. Her knowledge has been valuable to my mission. Has it? Zorn's tone made it clear he was skeptical. And what exactly is the status of your mission, young warrior? I've been monitoring this planet from orbit for the past day. I see no signs of conquest preparation. No weakened defense systems. No population reduction. In fact, his eyes narrowed, I detect no progress whatsoever. The moment of truth had arrived sooner than Naruto had planned. He could feel Bulma's tension beside him, her barely contained urge to speak in Earth's defense. But this was his responsibility. Commander, I request permission to present an alternative strategy for planet Earth. Zorn raised an eyebrow. Alternative to conquest. This should be interesting. He crossed his arms. Proceed. Naruto chose his next words carefully, knowing they might determine the fate of an entire world, and his own. Earth possesses resources and technology valuable to the Empire. Its inhabitants, while generally weak, include individuals with significant potential and specialized knowledge. He gestured to Bulma. This human has reverse-engineered and improved Saiyan technology, creating innovations our own scientists might find useful. You're suggesting, trade rather than conquest. Zorn's expression darkened. That is not the Saiyan way. With respect, Commander, our way is victory and profit. This planet could provide both without the resources required for full conquest. Naruto straightened, speaking with the confidence of a warrior presenting a battle plan. A strategic alliance would yield sustainable resources, technological exchange, and potentially even training grounds for young Saiyans, all while requiring minimal imperial investment. Zorn was silent for a long moment, studying Naruto with an unreadable expression. You've changed, young warrior. Your reports, infrequent as they were, never suggested this diplomatic mindset. My perspective has evolved based on direct observation and strategic assessment, Naruto replied, maintaining the formal tone expected when addressing a superior officer. Has it? Zorn stepped closer, his power radiating outward in subtle waves that made the air itself seem heavier. Or has 16 years among these creatures softened you? Made you forget your purpose, your heritage? Bulma could remain silent no longer. With all due respect, Commander, Naruto hasn't forgotten anything. He's made a strategic assessment based on facts. Isn't that what an elite warrior should do? Zorn's cold gaze shifted to her. The human speaks out of turn. The human, Bulma retorted, is offering your empire an opportunity more valuable than just another conquered world. Technology, resources, alliance, all without spending Saiyan lives in conquest. Brave, Zorn noted with a hint of surprise. Foolish, but brave. He turned back to Naruto. Your pet human makes interesting points. But she fails to understand one crucial aspect of our culture. Before either could react, Zorn moved with blinding speed, his fist connecting with Naruto's midsection with enough force to lift him off his feet. The younger Saiyan crashed into the rock wall behind them, creating a small avalanche of stone and ice. Naruto! Bulma cried, starting toward him. Zorn blocked her path. Saiyan matters are resolved between Saiyans, human. Stay out of this if you wish to live. Naruto pushed himself from the rubble, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Despite his weakened state, he managed to stand, eyes locked on his commander. As I suspected, Zorn said, disappointment evident in his tone. Weak. Compromised. You've lost your edge, young warrior. I haven't lost anything, Naruto replied, wiping blood from his lip. I've gained perspective. Perspective? Zorn laughed coldly. Is that what you call it? I call it failure. He gestured broadly at the planet around them. 16 years, and instead of a conquered world ready for sale, I find a Saiyan elite making excuses, protecting humans, suggesting alliances. The last word was spoken with evident disgust. The mission parameters were unclear, Naruto countered, gathering what strength he could. Communication was sporadic at best. A true Saiyan warrior needs no constant instruction. The mission was clear, conquer this world for the Empire. Zorn's power flared visibly around him, his aura crackling with energy. Your failure cannot be tolerated. The penalty is clear. Bulma's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. You can't just execute him for making a strategic recommendation. I can and will, Zorn stated without looking at her. Weakness is purged from the Saiyan ranks. It is our way. Naruto shifted into a fighting stance, despite knowing he stood no chance against Zorn at full power. Then I'll face judgment as a warrior. At least you remember that much, Zorn acknowledged, his own stance widening in preparation for combat. Perhaps there is still some Saiyan pride left in you. What happened next occurred so quickly Bulma could barely follow it. Zorn vanished from her sight, reappearing directly in front of Naruto. A devastating combination of strikes hammered the younger Saiyan, each impact echoing across the mountainside like thunder. Naruto fought back with everything he had, occasionally landing glancing blows, but the difference in their current power levels was simply too great. Within minutes, Naruto lay battered at the edge of the peak, blood staining the snow beneath him. He struggled to rise, refusing to admit defeat despite his body's limits. Zorn stood over him, gathering energy for what would clearly be a finishing blow. You had such potential. One of our greatest disappointments. Stop! Bulma shouted, placing herself between them. This isn't a fair fight. He's been injured defending Earth from threats. Zorn paused, genuinely surprised by her intervention. You would die for him, human. A Saiyan who was sent to destroy your world. I would die for a friend, she replied without hesitation. Something your culture might not understand. To her surprise, Zorn laughed, a short, genuine sound of amusement. You misunderstand Saiyans, female. Loyalty is valued highly among us. Just not mercy. His eyes narrowed. Now move, or die with him. Bulma, Naruto managed, his voice strained but determined. Stand aside. No. She remained firmly in place. If he wants to kill you, he'll have to go through me first. Touching, Zorn commented dryly. But futile. Before anyone could move, a new sound cut through the tense standoff, the distinctive beep of multiple scouters detecting approaching power signatures. What now? Zorn muttered, checking his own device. Power levels between 140 and 200. 5 signatures. Not Saiyans. Naruto struggled to his feet, leaning heavily on Bulma for support. Androids. They found us again. Androids? Zorn's interest was piqued despite himself. Artificial warriors. Yes, Bulma confirmed. Created specifically to counter and capture Saiyans. They've been hunting us for weeks. 5 figures appeared on the horizon, flying in perfect formation toward the mountain peak. Even at a distance, their mechanical nature was evident in the unnatural precision of their movement. Fascinating, Zorn murmured, studying the approaching threats. Perhaps this planet has more to offer than I thought. The androids landed in a semicircle facing the 3 figures on the peak. These were new models, larger and more heavily armored than those Naruto had faced previously. At their center stood a figure different from the others, a young woman with blonde hair and cold blue eyes, her movements more fluid, almost human. Subject N1 located, she announced in a voice that, while pleasant, held no emotion. Commander Z identified. Proceed with capture protocol. Zorn stepped forward, his earlier confrontation with Naruto temporarily forgotten in the face of new adversaries. I am Commander Zorn of the Saiyan Empire. Identify yourselves and your purpose. The blonde android tilted her head slightly. I am Android 18. We serve Dr. Gero of the Red Ribbon Army. Our purpose is the acquisition of Saiyan biological data for integration into the perfect combat system. Ambitious, Zorn noted, a predatory smile forming. And foolish. His power level began rising dramatically, the mountain itself trembling in response. No machine can match Saiyan might. That hypothesis will be tested, Android 18 replied calmly. Attack pattern Sigma. The androids moved with coordinated precision, each targeting a specific aspect of Zorn's defense. Unlike their attack on the weakened Naruto, this was a full-power assault from the beginning, energy blasts, physical strikes, and most concerning, the now familiar disruption field that had neutralized Naruto's ki previously. To Bulma's astonishment, Zorn handled the onslaught with almost casual ease. His power level was simply on another scale entirely. Where the disruption field had crippled Naruto, it merely seemed to irritate the commander. Where the android's coordinated strikes had overwhelmed the younger Saiyan, Zorn countered each with devastating efficiency. Insufficient power, one android reported as Zorn shattered its arm with a single strike. Requesting permission to activate limiters. Granted, Android 18 confirmed, jumping backward to create distance. Full power authorized. The remaining androids began to transform, armor plates shifting to reveal hidden energy emitters. Their power outputs doubled, then tripled as internal limiters were disengaged. Zorn laughed, genuine excitement in his voice. Now this is more interesting. Show me what Earth's technology can really do. The battle intensified, the mountaintop becoming a chaos of energy blasts and supersonic combat. Even Android 18, clearly the most advanced of the group, found herself outmatched by the Saiyan commander's raw power and battle experience. Naruto watched the conflict with mixed emotions. Part of him, the Saiyan part, thrilled at the display of his race's legendary combat prowess. Another part recognized that if Zorn destroyed all the androids, he would simply return to his original purpose, executing Naruto and likely conquering Earth. We need to move, Bulma whispered urgently. This might be our only chance to escape while they're distracted. Naruto shook his head. No. This is an opportunity. For what? To prove my point. He straightened despite his injuries, eyes fixed on the battle. Watch. As powerful as Zorn was, the android's numbers and specialized anti-Saiyan technology were beginning to wear him down. The disruption field, while not crippling him completely, noticeably hampered his energy projection. Multiple targeting algorithms allowed the machines to predict and counter his movements with increasing accuracy. For the first time, the commander found himself on the defensive, forced to expend more energy than anticipated against what he'd initially dismissed as inferior opponents. Their adaptation rate is remarkable, Naruto observed. They're learning his patterns, adjusting their attack parameters in real time. That's what makes them so dangerous, Bulma confirmed. Each model builds on the data from previous encounters. They're literally designed to get stronger the longer they fight. The tide turned suddenly when Android 18 managed to land a precision strike to Zorn's scouter, destroying the device and temporarily disorienting him. The other androids immediately capitalized, one grabbing each limb while 18 prepared what appeared to be a capture device, a collar-like mechanism designed to maintain the disruption field at close range. Now, Naruto said, pushing away from Bulma's support. My scouter. Quick. Understanding his intent, she handed him the device, which he immediately activated, targeting the androids restraining Zorn. Weak points identified, he announced, gathering what remained of his ki into his right hand. With precision rather than raw power, he fired 4 energy beams in rapid succession, each striking a critical joint or power regulator on the androids holding the commander. The machines faltered just enough for Zorn to break free, unleashing a devastating energy wave that reduced 2 of them to scrap metal instantly. Android 18, recognizing the shift in advantage, immediately disengaged, retreating to a safe distance with her remaining functional companion. Tactical withdrawal required, she announced. Sufficient data collected for Phase 2 development. Before either Saiyan could pursue, the androids activated some form of teleportation device, vanishing in a flash of light that left only scorched rock where they had stood. Zorn turned slowly toward Naruto, his expression unreadable. You assisted me. Yes, Commander. Why? I was about to execute you. Naruto met his gaze steadily. Because you're a Saiyan warrior. My commander. And because those androids represent exactly what I've been trying to explain about Earth. Explain, Zorn demanded, though his tone had lost some of its earlier hostility. This planet has developed technology specifically designed to counter Saiyan biology, something no other world we've encountered has achieved. Naruto gestured to where the androids had been. Those weren't their strongest models. They're learning, adapting, building better versions with each encounter. A genuine challenge, Zorn acknowledged with a warrior's respect for worthy opposition. More than that, Bulma interjected. Those androids were created by one scientist working with limited resources. Imagine what Earth and the Saiyan Empire could develop together, as allies rather than enemies. Zorn considered this, his tactical mind clearly processing the implications. The Empire has encountered resistance from certain quarters recently. New weapons, new strategies would be valuable. Exactly, Naruto pressed the advantage. Conquest would destroy the very infrastructure and expertise that makes these innovations possible. But alliance. He left the sentence hanging, letting Zorn complete the thought himself. The commander was silent for a long moment, his gaze shifting between Naruto, Bulma, and the battlefield where advanced Earth technology had genuinely challenged Saiyan might. You were always different, he finally said to Naruto. Even as an infant. Your power level was exceptional, but your mind, the way you analyzed problems, adapted to challenges, that was what marked you for elite status. Then you understand why I'm proposing this alternative? Zorn's expression hardened again, but differently than before, less dismissive, more calculating. I understand that you found something here worth fighting for. Whether that's weakness or wisdom remains to be seen. He turned to Bulma. You, human. Your technology. Could it be replicated? Taught to our scientists? With the right collaboration, absolutely, she replied confidently. What we've developed is just the beginning. And these Dragon Balls I heard you mention earlier. What are they? Naruto and Bulma exchanged glances, silently debating how much to reveal. Finally, Naruto nodded slightly, holding back now would only breed suspicion. 7 magical artifacts, Bulma explained. When gathered together, they grant one wish, virtually anything the summoner desires. Zorn's eyes widened fractionally, the only indication of his surprise. And you possess all 7? We do, Naruto. Confirmed. Another reason why alliance is preferable to conquest. Some of Earth's most valuable resources are linked to its existing culture and knowledge. The commander paced the rocky plateau, clearly weighing options and implications. Finally, he stopped, decision made. I will not execute you today, Naruto. Your alternative strategy has merit worth exploring. His eyes narrowed. But I will report this situation to King Vegeta. The final decision rests with him. Relief washed through both Naruto and Bulma, though they were careful not to show it too openly. Until then, Zorn continued, you will demonstrate these Dragon Balls' power. If they function as claimed, it would indeed represent a significant asset. And Earth? Naruto asked carefully. Remains under evaluation. No conquest orders will be issued yet. Zorn's expression became stern again. But do not mistake this for acceptance of your failure, young warrior. You were sent to conquer, and you did not. There will be consequences, regardless of the outcome. Naruto bowed his head slightly, accepting this reality. Understood, Commander. Zorn surveyed the battlefield one last time, then turned toward his pod. We depart immediately for a more suitable location. These mountains are inconvenient for proper demonstration. As the commander moved away, Bulma whispered urgently to Naruto. What are we going to wish for? We can't give the Saiyans unlimited power. We won't, he assured her quietly. I have a plan. Trust me. The look they shared contained more than either would admit aloud, trust built over months of shared danger, growing respect, and something deeper neither had yet named. Always, she replied simply, and followed him toward Zorn's waiting pod. The fate of Earth now hung in a precarious balance, between Saiyan conquest traditions and a new vision of alliance, between Naruto's loyalty to his people and his growing attachment to his adopted world. And at the center of it all, 7 magical spheres that could either save everything or doom it entirely, depending on the wish they granted. Chapter 3, New Bonds, New Battles. The dragon towered above them, its serpentine body stretching impossibly into the darkening sky. Shenron's red eyes glowed as he regarded the 3 figures standing before him, Naruto, Bulma, and Commander Zorn, whose usually impassive face couldn't hide his astonishment at the magical being summoned by 7 ordinary-looking spheres. "I am the Eternal Dragon," Shenron's voice boomed across the remote plateau where they'd gathered. "State your wish, and I shall grant it." "Extraordinary," Zorn murmured, his scouter frantically trying to calculate the dragon's power level before giving up with a series of error beeps. "The energy signature is unlike anything in our database." Bulma shot a nervous glance at Naruto. They'd spent the entire trip from the northern glaciers debating what wish to make, one that would satisfy Zorn's curiosity without giving the Saiyan Empire a weapon that could threaten the galaxy. "Remember our agreement," Naruto said quietly to his commander. "We prove the Dragon Ball's power with a demonstration wish of my choosing." Zorn nodded reluctantly. "Proceed. But choose wisely, young warrior. My report to King Vegeta will include every detail." Naruto stepped forward, looking directly into the dragon's glowing eyes. The wish they'd settled on had been Bulma's idea, impressive enough to validate their claims but not dangerous in Saiyan hands. "Dragon, I wish for the restoration of Master Roshi's island and home, exactly as it was before the android attack, along with the creation of a protective energy barrier that will shield it from detection by technological means." Shenron's eyes glowed brighter. "Your wish is granted." The dragon vanished in a blinding flash, the 7 Dragon Balls rising into the air before scattering in different directions across the globe, transformed into ordinary stones for the next year. "A waste," Zorn commented disapprovingly. "You could have asked for immortality, unlimited power, the destruction of your enemies, and you restored an old man's house." "I demonstrated the dragon's power while protecting an ally," Naruto replied calmly. "The wish proves 2 points, the Dragon Balls can create something from nothing, and they can generate technology beyond even Saiyan capabilities. A detection-proof barrier is certainly valuable," Zorn acknowledged grudgingly. "But hardly worth conquering a planet for." "It's not about this particular wish," Bulma interjected. "It's about potential. The Dragon Balls regenerate annually. That's one reality-altering wish per year, forever, if Earth remains intact and its guardian alive." Zorn's expression shifted as the strategic implications sank in. "A perpetual wish machine. King Vegeta will find this intriguing." "Which is exactly why alliance makes more sense than conquest," Naruto pressed. "Destroy Earth's culture and knowledge, and you might lose access to the Dragon Balls forever." The commander studied him with newfound respect. "You've become quite the strategist, Naruto. Perhaps these years weren't entirely wasted after all." Before Naruto could respond, his scouter beeped with an incoming transmission, not from Earth technology, but from space. Zorn's scouter activated simultaneously, both devices displaying the same urgent message. Naruto's blood ran cold as he read the Saiyan text scrolling across his display. "It can't be. What is it?" Bulma asked, unable to read the alien script. Zorn's face had gone rigid with barely controlled emotion. "Prince Vegeta has entered Earth's solar system. Estimated arrival, 3 hours. Prince Vegeta." Bulma looked between the 2 Saiyans, recognizing the gravity in their expressions. "As in, the son of your king?" "The crown prince of all Saiyans," Naruto confirmed, his voice tight. "And he's coming here. Now." Zorn turned to him, accusation in his eyes. "Did you contact him?" No. I haven't communicated with anyone besides the fragmented transmissions I received over the years. Naruto's mind raced through possibilities. Could he have tracked your pod? Unlikely. I maintained communications blackout until confirming your status. Zorn's expression darkened. This is not coincidence. The prince doesn't make personal appearances without purpose. What does this mean for Earth? Bulma asked, cutting to the heart of the matter. Zorn's response was brutally honest. It means your planet's fate is no longer in my hands. Prince Vegeta's authority supersedes mine, and he is not known for his diplomatic temperament. Naruto turned to Bulma, unable to hide his concern. Prince Vegeta is the most powerful Saiyan of our generation. If he's coming for me, for my failure, then we face him together, she finished firmly. We've come too far to give up now. Zorn watched their interaction with calculating eyes. The prince travels with his personal guard, elite warriors handpicked for their strength and loyalty. If his purpose is punitive, resistance would be unwise. What would you suggest, Commander? Naruto asked, struggling to keep frustration from his voice. Submission. Respect. Perhaps. Zorn hesitated, seemingly uncomfortable with his next words. Perhaps emphasize the strategic value of Earth, as you did with me. The prince respects strength and cunning, if nothing else. We should prepare, Bulma said, practical as always despite the looming threat. Where will he land? Zorn checked his scouter. The trajectory suggests he's homing in on Saiyan energy signatures, mine and Naruto's. He'll likely land near our current position. Then we stay and face him, Naruto decided. Running would only anger him further. As they waited, tension mounting with each passing minute, Bulma worked frantically on her tablet, sending encrypted messages to Capsule Corp and Master Roshi. If things went badly, Earth would need warning. Naruto paced the plateau, occasionally stopping to perform energy control exercises. If combat became inevitable, he would need every advantage possible. His strength had almost fully returned since the android attack and glacier incident, but facing Prince Vegeta was another matter entirely. Tell me about him, Bulma said suddenly, breaking the heavy silence. What should we expect? Zorn answered before Naruto could. Prince Vegeta is the embodiment of Saiyan pride. Powerful, tactical, and utterly devoted to our race's dominance. He tolerates no weakness, no failure, no challenge to his authority. Sounds charming, Bulma muttered. He is also, Zorn continued, ignoring her sarcasm, one of the most brilliant military minds in the Empire. If anyone might see value in your alternative strategy, it would be him. If properly presented. Naruto caught the implication. You're suggesting we proceed with the alliance proposal? I'm suggesting survival, young warrior. Zorn's expression was grim. The prince has power beyond anything you faced. Even at your peak, you would not last 30 seconds against him. The brutal assessment hung in the air, undisputed even by Naruto's pride. He had grown stronger during his years on Earth, but Prince Vegeta was legendary even among Saiyans. 2 hours later, their wait was interrupted by an unmistakable sound, the distant boom of something breaking the sound barrier, followed by the whistling shriek of an object entering the atmosphere at high velocity. He's early, Zorn noted, rising to his feet. They watched as a streak of light cut across the twilight sky, growing larger as it approached. Unlike the single pod Zorn had arrived in, this was a formation, 5 pods in tight, precise arrangement, the center one slightly larger than the others. The formation adjusted course directly toward them, confirming Zorn's theory about the prince tracking their energy signatures. With devastating precision, the pods impacted the plateau about 200 yards from their position, each creating its own crater in perfect geometric alignment. Form up, Zorn commanded, his tone automatically shifting to military formality. Standard reception protocol. The human stays behind us. Naruto positioned himself to Zorn's right, slightly behind as befitted his lower rank. Bulma, despite clearly wanting to object to being hidden behind anyone, recognized the gravity of the moment and complied, standing several paces back. The central pod opened first, steam hissing from hydraulic seals as its door lowered to form a ramp. From its shadows emerged a figure that, despite his moderate height, radiated such intense power that the air itself seemed to warp around him. Prince Vegeta wore armor similar to Zorn's but more ornate, with a royal crest emblazoned on the chest plate. His black hair rose in a distinctive flame-like pattern, framing sharp features set in a perpetual scowl. Unlike the other Saiyans, he wore white gloves that flexed as he crossed his arms, surveying the welcoming party with evident disdain. The other pods opened simultaneously, revealing 4 warriors who immediately took flanking positions around their prince, 2 men and 2 women, each bearing the distinctive armor and scouters of Saiyan elites. "Commander Zorn," Prince Vegeta acknowledged, his voice surprisingly deep for his stature. "I see you found our missing conquest agent." Zorn dropped to one knee, right fist pressed to his chest in the traditional Saiyan salute. "My prince. We did not expect your personal attention on this matter." "Clearly." Vegeta's dark eyes shifted to Naruto, who had also knelt in proper protocol. 16 years with no conquest. No progress reports. And now I find you entertaining alternative strategies. His tone made the words sound like a disease. Naruto kept his head bowed, mind racing. How did the prince know about their discussions? Unless realization hit like a physical blow. Zorn's report to King Vegeta hadn't been his first communication after all. "You've been monitoring the commander's transmissions," Naruto stated, looking up despite protocol. One of the royal guards stepped forward menacingly. "Watch your tone when addressing the prince, failure." Vegeta raised a hand, stopping his guard. "At least your intelligence remains intact, even if your Saiyan pride does not." His eyes narrowed. "Yes, I've been monitoring all communications from this sector since Commander Zorn's departure. Your creative interpretation of your mission parameters was of particular interest." He stepped closer, power rolling off him in palpable waves. "Stand up. Let me see what 16 years on this mudball has done to you." Naruto rose, meeting the prince's gaze with as much dignity as he could muster. Though they were of similar height, Vegeta's presence made him seem larger, more imposing. "You've maintained your physical condition, at least," Vegeta observed, circling Naruto slowly. "Though your power level is disappointing for your age and lineage. And your choice in companions." His gaze flicked to Bulma. "Questionable." "The human is a scientific asset," Zorn interjected carefully. "Her understanding of technology has proven valuable." "Did I ask for your assessment, Commander?" Vegeta's voice was deceptively soft. "No, my prince." "Then remain silent until addressed." Vegeta completed his circuit around Naruto, stopping directly in front of him. "You were sent to conquer. You have not conquered. Explain yourself." This was the moment Naruto had been dreading and preparing for. He straightened his shoulders, speaking with the conviction he'd developed over months of reflection. "Prince Vegeta, I propose that Earth represents greater value to the Saiyan Empire as an allied world than as a conquered one. Its technology, resources, and unique magical properties offer sustainable benefits that would be destroyed through traditional conquest." Vegeta's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, interest, perhaps, or merely surprise at Naruto's audacity. "Continue," he said after a moment. Encouraged, Naruto outlined the key points of his proposal: Earth's technological potential demonstrated through the androids, the regenerating Dragon Balls, the strategic advantage of having a developed allied world in this sector of space. He spoke with the precision of a military briefing, avoiding emotional appeals in favor of cold strategic logic. When he finished, Vegeta was silent, his expression unreadable. Finally, he turned to one of his guards, a tall, bald Saiyan with a goatee. "Nappa, your assessment." The large Saiyan stepped forward. "Unusual proposal, but not without merit from a resource perspective, my prince. The wish-granting artifacts alone would justify consideration. Vegeta nodded slightly, then addressed Bulma directly. You. Human. Step forward. Bulma moved beside Naruto, her chin raised despite the intimidating presence facing her. Yes, Your Highness. A brief look of surprise crossed Vegeta's face at her proper address. You claim to understand Saiyan technology. Prove it. Without hesitation, Bulma launched into a detailed explanation of the modifications she'd made to Naruto's scouter, the expanded scanning capabilities, integration with Earth systems, and enhanced power measurement algorithms. She spoke with confident expertise, using technical terminology that even the royal guard seemed impressed by. And the neural interface I've developed could potentially allow for thought-controlled operation, eliminating the need for physical activation, she concluded. Vegeta studied her with new interest. Impressive, for a human. But technology alone does not justify sparing a planet. No, Bulma agreed boldly. But intelligence, adaptability, and potential do. Earth isn't just a collection of resources, it's an incubator for innovation that could benefit the Saiyan Empire for generations. Bold words from a species I could exterminate with a gesture, Vegeta remarked, though there was more curiosity than threat in his tone. If extermination were your goal, you wouldn't still be talking to us, Bulma countered, earning a warning glance from Naruto. Unexpectedly, Vegeta laughed, a short, sharp sound devoid of humor but carrying genuine amusement. She has spirit, this human. More than many Saiyan females I've encountered. He turned back to Naruto, all traces of amusement vanishing. Your failure to complete your assigned mission cannot go unanswered, regardless of your creative justifications. The Saiyan Empire's strength rests on absolute obedience and successful conquest. Naruto's heart sank. After everything, after all their arguments and evidence, the prince was still going to execute him and likely destroy Earth anyway. However, Vegeta continued, surprising everyone, recent developments within the Empire have created unique strategic considerations. He gestured to his guards, who stepped back, giving them a semblance of privacy. Even Zorn looked confused by this turn. The Planet Trade Organization has begun encroaching on traditionally Saiyan territories, Vegeta explained, his voice lower. King Cold's expansion has created tensions with my father. New allies with advanced technology might prove timely. Hope sparked in Naruto's chest, quickly tempered by caution. You're considering the alliance proposal? I'm considering all strategic options, Vegeta corrected sharply. But your disobedience still demands consequence. The prince's power flared suddenly, his aura crackling with golden energy that made the ground beneath them tremble. You will prove your worth as a Saiyan warrior, here and now. Face me in combat. Show me that 16 years on this planet haven't completely erased your heritage. Naruto's blood ran cold. Combat with Prince Vegeta was tantamount to a death sentence. Even at his peak, the power difference between them was insurmountable. And if I refuse, he asked, already knowing the answer. Then you die without honor, and this planet becomes dust. Vegeta's smile was predatory. Choose, warrior. I accept the challenge, Naruto replied without further hesitation. If death was inevitable, better to face it fighting than kneeling. Naruto, no. Bulma grabbed his arm. There has to be another way. There isn't, he said quietly, gently removing her hand. This is how Saiyans resolve matters of honor. It's suicide. It's necessary. He met her eyes, trying to convey everything he couldn't say aloud. Trust me. Vegeta watched their exchange with mild disgust. Touching. Now, shall we begin, or would you prefer to continue your sentimental goodbyes? Naruto turned to face the prince, dropping into a combat stance that blended Saiyan techniques with the adaptations he'd developed training with Master Roshi. I'm ready. No, you're not, Vegeta replied coldly. But that's what makes this interesting. The prince moved with such speed that even Zorn's experienced eyes struggled to track him. One moment he stood calmly facing Naruto, the next his fist connected with the younger Saiyan's jaw, sending him flying across the plateau and through a rock formation. Naruto recovered mid-air, using his ki to halt his momentum before he crashed into a second cliff face. He had barely regained his balance when Vegeta appeared above him, both hands clasped together as they hammered down into Naruto's shoulders, driving him into the earth with enough force to create a small crater. Pain exploded through Naruto's body, but Saiyan instinct took over. He rolled aside as Vegeta's boot crashed down where his head had been, countering with a sweeping kick that the prince easily avoided. Pathetic, Vegeta commented, standing calmly as Naruto struggled to his feet. You move like a third-class warrior. Were 16 years of comfort worth sacrificing your Saiyan potential? Anger flared in Naruto at the taunt, not just at the insult to his pride, but at the dismissal of his time on Earth as mere comfort. Those years had been filled with isolation, adaptation, and eventually growth beyond anything his Saiyan programming had prepared him for. My potential hasn't been sacrificed, Naruto replied, wiping blood from his lip. It's been expanded. He launched himself at Vegeta, channeling his ki in the precise, controlled manner Roshi had taught him rather than the explosive bursts typical of Saiyan combat. The approach momentarily caught Vegeta off guard, allowing Naruto to land a solid kick to the prince's midsection. Vegeta skidded back several feet, not damaged, but surprised. Interesting technique. Not Saiyan in origin. Earth has its own warriors, Naruto replied, pressing his momentary advantage with a combination of strikes that forced even the prince to focus on defense. Different methods, different philosophies. I've learned from them. Learning from lesser species. Vegeta blocked a punch aimed at his face, countering with an elbow strike that Naruto barely dodged. You truly have forgotten your heritage. I've enhanced it, Naruto corrected, jumping back to create distance. Saiyans adapt. We evolve. We take what works and discard what doesn't. Isn't that our way? Something flickered across Vegeta's face, recognition, perhaps. The prince paused, reassessing his opponent with narrowed eyes. Show me, he demanded. Show me this, enhancement. Naruto centered himself, drawing on every technique he'd mastered during his years on Earth. The key control Roshi had taught him. The precision Bulma's scientific approach had instilled. The strategic thinking that had kept him alive against the androids. His power gathered differently than the typical Saiyan approach, not an explosive aura that consumed everything around it, but a concentrated, focused energy that seemed to bend inward before projecting outward. The whisker marks on his cheeks darkened as golden energy began to swirl around him, taking on an almost flame-like appearance. What is this technique? Vegeta demanded, his scouter beeping frantically as it registered the unusual energy pattern. Something new, Naruto replied, his voice deeper as the transformation completed. A combination of Saiyan power and Earth's key manipulation principles. He moved again, but with doubled speed, appearing behind Vegeta before the prince could react. His strike connected solidly, actually causing Vegeta to stagger forward in genuine surprise. Impossible, the prince muttered, recovering quickly. Your power level just doubled. Efficiency, not just raw power, Naruto explained, continuing his assault with precision strikes that targeted pressure points and energy meridians, concepts unknown in Saiyan combat. Quality over quantity. For the first time, Vegeta seemed to take the fight seriously, his own power rising to meet the challenge. The plateau became a battleground as the two Saiyans exchanged blows at speeds that rendered them nearly invisible to normal perception. From the sidelines, Bulma watched in astonished concern. Despite his improved technique, Naruto was clearly outmatched. For every strike he landed, Vegeta delivered 3 in return. Blood flowed from cuts on Naruto's face and arms, his armor cracking under the prince's relentless assault. He can't win this, she whispered to Zorn, who stood watching with grim assessment. Vegeta's just toying with him. Yes, the commander agreed. But he's lasting longer than expected. The prince is curious. Curious enough to spare him. Zorn's expression remained unreadable. That depends on what Naruto shows him next. In the battle, Vegeta had finally tired of defensive combat. With a surge of power that made the air itself seem to ignite, he unleashed his full strength, overwhelming Naruto's guard with a barrage of strikes too fast to counter. A powerful kick sent the younger Saiyan crashing to the ground at Bulma's feet, his golden aura flickering as he struggled to maintain consciousness. "Stay down," she urged, kneeling beside him. "You've proven your point." "Not yet," Naruto grunted, pushing himself up despite his body's protests. "He hasn't seen everything." Vegeta landed a few yards away, not even breathing hard despite the intense combat. "Is that all, Conquest Agent? Some flashy techniques and marginal power increase? Hardly worth sparing a failed warrior for." Naruto stood, blood streaming from a cut above his eye but determination undiminished. "One last technique, Prince Vegeta. Something that might interest even you." The prince crossed his arms, skepticism evident. "Proceed. Make your final stand memorable, at least." Instead of gathering his ki for another attack, Naruto closed his eyes, concentrating on something entirely different. The energy around him shifted, becoming less combative and more perceptive. "What are you doing?" Vegeta demanded, scouter beeping in confusion as it tried to interpret the readings. "Showing you Earth's greatest potential value to the Empire," Naruto replied, eyes still closed. "The ability to sense and analyze energy without technology. To feel the flow of power throughout living beings and harness it with precision impossible for machines." His eyes snapped open, now glowing with golden light. "Your scouter tells you my power level. But can it tell you this?" With a gesture, Naruto sent a thin beam of energy directly toward Vegeta's heart, not with enough power to harm the prince, but with such precision that it slipped through his aura without disruption, touching the exact spot where the royal crest adorned his armor. "Impossible," Vegeta murmured, looking down at the pinpoint of energy. "No warrior can target with such accuracy through another's ki field." "Earth techniques make it possible," Naruto explained, maintaining the connection. "Their martial arts focus on energy flow, precision, and efficiency, concepts our race has never needed to explore because of our natural power advantage." He released the technique, dropping to one knee as exhaustion finally overtook him. "Imagine Saiyan warriors with this level of control. Imagine what we could accomplish if raw power were harnessed with perfect precision." Vegeta was silent, studying Naruto with new intensity. The plateau fell quiet as everyone awaited the prince's judgment. "Commander Zorn," Vegeta finally said, his voice carefully neutral. "Your assessment of this warrior's proposal?" Zorn stepped forward, choosing his words with diplomatic care. "The techniques demonstrated show potential strategic value. Combined with this planet's technology and these Dragon Balls, an alliance might indeed serve the Empire's interests better than conquest." Vegeta nodded slowly, then turned to Bulma. "Human. If your world were spared, what would you offer the Saiyan Empire in return for our protection?" Bulma recognized the critical moment for what it was. Technology exchange. Combat training in our key control methods. Access to the Dragon Balls for mutually beneficial wishes. And a forward base in this sector of space that wouldn't require conquest resources to maintain. A comprehensive proposal, Vegeta acknowledged. "And Naruto's role in this arrangement?" "Liaison," she replied without hesitation. "He understands both worlds, both cultures. He could ensure the alliance benefits both parties equally." Vegeta turned back to Naruto, who remained kneeling, blood dripping from his numerous wounds but head held high with Saiyan pride intact. "Rise, warrior," the prince commanded. Naruto stood, bracing himself for execution or mercy, either way, he would face it with dignity. 16 years ago, you were sent to conquer Earth, Vegeta stated. "You failed in that mission." "Yes," my prince. Instead, you propose an alliance that would bring new techniques, technology, and magical artifacts to the Saiyan Empire. I do. Vegeta's expression remained stern, but something had shifted in his eyes. Your combat performance was adequate. Your strategic thinking, unexpectedly valuable. He turned, walking a few paces away before continuing. The Saiyan Empire faces challenges that traditional conquest alone cannot address. New approaches may be necessary. Hope flickered in Naruto's chest, but he maintained his composure. Showing emotion now would only undermine everything he'd fought for. I will not execute you today, Vegeta announced, turning back to face them. This alliance proposal warrants further investigation. Earth will be designated a protected territory under evaluation for formal alliance status. Relief washed through Naruto, so intense he nearly staggered. Beside him, Bulma let out a breath she'd apparently been holding since the battle began. However, Vegeta continued sharply, your failure to complete your original mission cannot go unpunished. You are hereby stripped of your elite status until you prove yourself worthy of reinstatement. The demotion stung Naruto's pride, but compared to execution and Earth's destruction, it was a minor consequence. Furthermore, the prince added, you will serve as Earth's protector and Empire liaison, responsible for developing the combat techniques you demonstrated and preparing regular reports on technological exchanges. Naruto bowed formally. I accept these terms with gratitude, my prince. Don't be grateful yet, Vegeta warned. I will return in one Earth year to evaluate this arrangement. If I find it lacking in value to the Empire, both you and this planet will face the consequences. Understood. Vegeta turned to his guards. Prepare for departure. We have what we came for. As the royal guard returned to their pods, Vegeta approached Naruto one last time, speaking quietly so only he could hear. The Empire is changing, warrior. King Cold's ambitions grow, and with them, the threats to Saiyan dominance. Your unorthodox approach may prove more valuable than either of us realizes. The admission, almost confidential in nature, surprised Naruto more than anything else that had occurred. Thank you, my prince. Don't thank me. Prove me right. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. And remember your heritage. You may have found value in Earth's ways, but you are still Saiyan. Never forget that. With those parting words, the prince returned to his pod, the door sealing behind him with a hydraulic hiss. Within minutes, all 5 vessels had launched, disappearing into the evening sky as rapidly as they had arrived. Well, Bulma said, breaking the stunned silence, that went better than expected. Naruto finally allowed himself to relax, the pain of his injuries catching up now that the adrenaline was fading. Better than death, yes. Zorn approached, his expression thoughtful. The prince rarely changes his mind once set on a course. Your demonstration must have impressed him deeply. Or the Empire's situation is more precarious than we realized, Naruto suggested. Who is this King Cold he mentioned? A galactic tyrant whose power rivals or exceeds even our greatest warriors, Zorn explained grimly. His organization has been encroaching on Saiyan territories for years. If open conflict erupts, the Empire would need every advantage it could get, Bulma finished. Including Earth's technology and these new combat techniques. Precisely. Zorn studied Naruto with new respect. Your strategic gambit may have saved not only this planet but potentially provided the Empire with crucial advantages for the coming conflict. Naruto hadn't considered this wider implication. He'd been focused solely on protecting Earth, on reconciling his Saiyan heritage with his growing attachment to his adopted world. The idea that his actions might influence galactic politics was both daunting and strangely satisfying. What happens now, Commander? He asked. I return to planet Vegeta with initial reports and coordination protocols. Zorn's typically stern expression softened marginally. You remain here, as the prince ordered, Earth's protector and Empire liaison. And my demotion? Zorn actually smiled, a brief, thin expression but genuine nonetheless. A formality. Prove the value of this alliance, and you'll likely be reinstated with honors. The prince rewards results, whatever path produces them. The commander glanced at Bulma, then back to Naruto with something like understanding in his eyes. Besides, I suspect you found compensations here that outweigh elite status. Before Naruto could respond to the unexpected perceptiveness, Zorn's scouter beeped with an alert. He checked the display, frowning. Multiple power signatures approaching from the east. Not Saiyan. Naruto activated his own scouter, confirming the readings. 7 signatures. Power levels between 100 and 200. Moving in formation. More androids? Bulma suggested, immediately concerned. No, Naruto replied, studying the energy patterns. These are different. Biological, not mechanical. But the energy signature is unusual. Almost like ki, but corrupted somehow. Zorn's expression hardened back to military alertness. How far? 5 minutes at their current speed. I should depart, the commander decided. My presence might complicate Earth politics unnecessarily at this stage. Naruto nodded understanding. If these were Earth forces responding to the multiple Saiyan landings, Zorn's presence could undermine the fragile alliance before it even began. Safe journey, Commander. I'll send my first report within the month. Zorn clasped Naruto's forearm in the traditional Saiyan warrior's farewell. Fight with pride, young warrior. And remember, you represent the Empire now, whatever your current rank. With that, the commander strode to his pod, the vessel launching moments later toward the stars. Naruto and Bulma were left alone on the plateau, watching as 7 distinct figures appeared on the eastern horizon, flying directly toward them. Friends of yours? Naruto asked Bulma, dropping into a defensive stance despite his injuries. Never seen them before, she replied, pulling a compact scanner from her pocket. But my readings confirm what you said, biological entities, but their energy pattern is definitely abnormal. As the figures drew closer, their appearances became clearer, humans, or at least humanoid, each wearing identical black cloaks decorated with red cloud patterns. Their faces were partially obscured by high collars, but their synchronized movement spoke of military precision and training. They landed in a perfect semicircle facing Naruto and Bulma, maintaining formation with unnerving coordination. The central figure, a man with orange hair and strange, ringed eyes, stepped forward. Uzumaki Naruto, he spoke, his voice carrying unusual resonance. Saiyan elite, sent to conquer Earth, now its apparent defender. Naruto tensed, immediately suspicious. You have me at a disadvantage. You know my name, but I don't know yours. I am Pain, the orange-haired man replied. Leader of Akatsuki. We have been watching you since your battle at Capsule Corporation. Another organization interested in Saiyan biology? Bulma asked warily. Because we're getting a little tired of that particular hobby. Pain's expression remained impassive. We are not interested in biology, but in energy. Specifically, the energy you Saiyans call ki, but which we recognize as a form of the fundamental force we have spent decades studying. And what do you call this force? Naruto asked, intrigued despite his caution. Chakra, replied a blue-haired woman standing beside Pain. The combination of physical and spiritual energies that flow through all living things. Bulma's scientific curiosity was visibly piqued. That sounds similar to how Master Roshi describes ki. Similar but distinct, Pain corrected. Your Saiyan friend manipulates raw power impressively, but without understanding its true nature or potential. Naruto bristled at the condescension. I understand enough to defend this planet from threats. Are you one of them? Pain studied him for a moment, those strange ringed eyes seeming to see beyond physical appearance. That depends on your definition of threat. We seek to reshape this world, to bring true peace through power and understanding. Your arrival, and now these other Saiyans, represents a variable in our calculations. You still haven't explained who we are, Bulma pressed. What is Akatsuki? An organization dedicated to mastering chakra in all its forms, the blue-haired woman answered. For centuries, we have operated in the shadows, gathering knowledge, developing techniques, preparing for the day when humanity would be ready for true evolution. And you think that day has come? Naruto asked skeptically. We know it has, Pain replied. The arrival of extraterrestrial beings with advanced energy manipulation capabilities confirms our theories about chakra's universal nature. Your presence has accelerated our timeline. Something about their calm certainty sent warning signals through Naruto's mind. These weren't typical human zealots or power-hungry scientists like Dr. Gero. Their energy signatures suggested capabilities far beyond normal human limits, and their coordinated precision indicated years, perhaps decades of training. What do you want from me? He asked directly. Initially, observation, Pain answered with unexpected frankness. Now, having witnessed your combat with the Saiyan Prince, we seek understanding, an exchange of knowledge. Knowledge about key manipulation. About its potential when merged with our chakra principles. Pain raised his hand, and a swirling sphere of energy formed above his palm, not unlike Naruto's own key techniques, but with visible differences in structure and behavior. What you demonstrated against Prince Vegeta was impressive but fundamentally limited by your understanding of energy's true nature. Naruto exchanged a glance with Bulma, who looked equally suspicious of this convenient offer. If you've been watching me for months, why approach now? Naruto asked. Why not contact me earlier? We needed to confirm your intentions toward Earth, the blue-haired woman explained. Your actions today proved you are committed to this planet's protection, not its conquest. And if you don't like what you learn about me? Naruto pressed. What then? Pain's expression remained unnervingly calm. Then we would have eliminated you, as we have eliminated all threats to our vision of peace. The blunt admission sent a chill through both Naruto and Bulma. These people weren't just powerful, they were absolutely convinced of their righteousness, a combination Naruto had learned was particularly dangerous. I appreciate your offer, he said carefully, but I think I'll pass on the knowledge exchange for now. I've had enough new alliances for one day. Pain seemed unsurprised by the rejection. As you wish. But remember, Saiyan, power attracts power. Your presence has awakened forces that have slumbered for generations. The Akatsuki is merely the first to make itself known. Is that a threat? A reality, Pain corrected. One you will face with or without our assistance. The blue-haired woman stepped forward. We leave you with this demonstration of our sincerity. She made a series of intricate hand gestures, then touched Naruto's chest before he could react. A surge of strange energy flowed through him, different from ki but somehow compatible with it. Instantly, the pain from his battle with Vegeta diminished, wounds closing with remarkable speed. A healing technique, she explained, stepping back. One of many chakra applications your ki manipulation cannot achieve alone. Naruto felt his restored strength with astonishment. Even senzu beans didn't work this efficiently. How did you study our methods? If you wish to learn more, Pain interrupted. We will be watching your progress, Uzumaki Naruto. Earth's future, and perhaps the galaxy's, may depend on the choices you make in the coming months. With those cryptic words, the 7 figures rose into the air in perfect unison, their black cloaks billowing as they disappeared into the darkening sky. Bulma waited until they were completely gone before speaking. Well, that was suitably ominous and cryptic. Think they practiced those exits? Despite everything, Naruto laughed, a short, surprised sound that released some of the tension that had built throughout the extraordinary day. First androids, then Prince Vegeta, now chakra-wielding secret societies, he sighed. Earth is far more complicated than my mission briefing suggested. Having second thoughts about protecting us? Bulma asked, only half joking. Naruto looked at her, really looked at her, for perhaps the first time since they'd met. In the fading twilight, with the wind gently lifting her blue hair, determination and intelligence shining in her eyes despite the exhaustion evident on her face, he felt something shift inside him. A certainty that hadn't been there before, even when arguing Earth's value to Vegeta and Zorn. "No," he said simply. "No second thoughts." Bulma's expression softened. "Good, because you'd be stuck with the job anyway." "Prince's orders." "Not just his orders," Naruto admitted quietly. "My choice." "My." He hesitated, searching for a word not common in Saiyan vocabulary. "My home." The admission hung between them, more significant than either acknowledged aloud. After a moment, Bulma reached out, taking his hand in a gesture that would have been unthinkable months ago. "Speaking of home, we should probably find one that isn't a remote plateau with no food, water, or comfortable places to sleep," she suggested practically. "I don't know about you, but I've had enough excitement for one day." Naruto nodded, realizing just how exhausted he was despite the Akatsuki woman's healing technique. "Capsule Corp?" "Not yet." Too many questions were not ready to answer. She thought for a moment. "Master Roshi's island. The Dragon Ball wish should have restored it completely, and the detection barrier will keep Dr. Gero's androids from finding us while we recover." "Good thinking." Naruto wrapped an arm around her waist, preparing for flight. "Hold on." As they soared into the night sky, Bulma rested her head against his shoulder in a gesture that felt surprisingly natural. "So, Earth's protector. That's quite a career change from Planet Conqueror." "Better benefits package," he replied with unexpected humor. "The company is definitely an improvement." She laughed, the sound carrying away on the wind as they flew over forests and mountains, the stars emerging above them like silent witnesses to the day's momentous events. "You know," Bulma said after a comfortable silence, "for a while there, I really thought we were done for." When Vegeta showed up. "So did I," Naruto admitted. "He's not known for changing his mind or showing mercy." "Then why did he?" "Really?" Naruto considered the question seriously. "Part of it was strategic, Earth's value to the Empire in a changing galactic landscape. Part was the combat demonstration, Science respects strength and innovation, even in unusual forms." "And the rest?" Bulma pressed. "I think." Naruto paused, organizing his thoughts. "I think he saw something familiar. A Saiyan caught between heritage and evolution, between tradition and adaptation. In his own way, Vegeta faces similar challenges as the Empire's heir." Bulma studied his profile in the moonlight. "You understand him better than you let on. We were children together, briefly, before I was sent to Earth. Different ranks, different circles, but I remember him even then, brilliant, proud, and always questioning, even when he tried to hide it." The admission surprised her. "You never mentioned that before." "It wasn't relevant until today." Naruto adjusted their course slightly as the ocean came into view below. "Saiyan childhood isn't like Earth's. Attachments are discouraged. Power and rank determine everything. Sounds lonely." It was efficient, he corrected automatically, then reconsidered. "But yes. Lonely." The simple acknowledgement represented how far he'd come from the proud, isolated warrior who had encountered Bulma in the mountains months ago. Earth hadn't just changed his mission, it had changed him, opened possibilities beyond the narrow path of conquest and destruction he'd been programmed to follow. Master Roshi's island appeared on the horizon, the pink house now fully restored thanks to their Dragon Ball wish. As they descended toward the beach, Naruto felt a curious sensation, something he eventually identified as contentment. Not the satisfaction of a completed mission or a battle won, but something deeper and more personal. They landed gently on the sand, the ocean waves providing a peaceful soundtrack after a day of intense conflict and negotiation. "Home sweet home, at least for now," Bulma said, stretching tired muscles. "Tomorrow we can start planning how to deal with androids, chakra cults, and the expectations of an interstellar empire. Tomorrow, Naruto agreed, the concept itself representing a luxury he hadn't allowed himself before, the ability to defer decisions, to rest, to simply exist in the present moment. As they walked toward the house, a comfortable silence between them, Naruto reflected on the extraordinary path that had led him here. Sent as a conqueror, he had become a protector. Programmed for destruction, he had chosen preservation. Born a Saiyan elite, he had found value in Earth's seemingly primitive ways. And somewhere along that journey, the blue-haired human walking beside him had transformed from potential conquest victim to essential ally to something more complex that he was still defining. Inside the house, Master Roshi greeted them with surprising calm given the day's events, offering food and rest without demanding immediate explanations. The old master's perceptiveness extended to recognizing when questions could wait until morning. Later, as the house quieted and the moon rose high above the ocean, Naruto stood on the beach alone, gazing at the stars that held his homeworld somewhere in their distant patterns. Planet Vegeta, a place he barely remembered but had been programmed to serve unquestioningly for 16 years. Can't sleep? Bulma asked, joining him on the beach. Just thinking, he replied. About what comes next. She stood beside him, following his gaze to the stars. That's easy. We prepare. For Vegeta's return, for the Akatsuki, for whatever Dr. Gero is planning with those androids. We build the alliance, develop the technology exchange, make Earth valuable enough that the Saiyans never reconsider their decision. Just like that. He couldn't help smiling at her characteristic determination. Just like that, she confirmed confidently. Between your power and my brains, we've got this covered. The simple faith in her voice did something unexpected to Naruto. It solidified his own resolve, not from duty or pride or programming, but from genuine commitment to this world and its remarkable inhabitants. You know, he said after a moment, Saiyan custom doesn't really have a framework for what I'm doing. There's no protocol for a conquest agent who becomes a planet's defender. Then make a new protocol, Bulma suggested, turning to face him. That's what you've been doing all along, isn't it? Finding a new way forward that honors your heritage while embracing something different. The insight struck him as profoundly true. Every choice since meeting Bulma in the mountains had been a step away from rigid Saiyan doctrine towards something more adaptive, more nuanced, and ultimately, more powerful. I could use help with that, he admitted. From someone who understands both science and stubbornness. Bulma smiled, moonlight reflecting in her eyes. Fortunately for you, I'm an expert in both. The moment between them stretched, filled with unspoken potential. Then, with the same decisiveness that characterized his fighting style, Naruto closed the distance between them, one hand gently touching her cheek as he kissed her. Bulma responded immediately, arms wrapping around his neck as she returned the kiss with equal intensity. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, her smile held a hint of triumph. Took you long enough, monkey boy, she teased. I was beginning to think Saiyans didn't do romance. We don't, typically, he admitted. Another Earth custom I'm adapting to. Well, you're a quick learner. She kept her arms around his neck, face serious despite her light tone. This isn't going to be easy, you know. Earth's protector, Saiyan. Liaison, potential target for multiple organizations with questionable intentions. I know. His expression matched her seriousness. But nothing worth having ever is. The simple truth hung between them as the ocean waves continued their eternal rhythm against the shore. Tomorrow would bring challenges, explaining the alliance to Earth's governments, developing defense strategies against the androids and Akatsuki, preparing for Vegeta's eventual return to evaluate their progress. But tonight, under Earth's moon and stars, Naruto Uzumaki, Saiyan elite turned planetary defender, allowed himself to embrace not just a mission or a strategic alliance, but a future he had chosen rather than one he had been programmed to fulfill. And for now, that was enough. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.